Hello, hello, hello. I am Andy McNamara, and welcome to the Game Informer Show. How are you all doing? Today I have guests. I have Andy Reiner.
Hello, sir.
I have Brian Shea.
Hey.
How you guys doing today?
Good. Doing all right.
Doing all right?
Hanging in there.
All right. Well, today's show, we're going to talk about Call of Duty Modern Warfare. We're going to talk about Luigi's Mansion 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to switch out some peeps and talk about Lonely Mountain Downhill, Afterparty, Disco Elysium, and do some reader mail. And then hopefully, I don't know yet, we'll have an interview perhaps as well.
Ooh.
That's a maybe. Don't know yet.
We'll see.
We're working on it.
Leave a little intrigue in there.
Yeah, we're leaving a little intrigue in there. You know, we're doing it live. We're doing this live. We're doing it live. So, so you guys have been playing Call of Duty.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I played it 2 weeks ago. No, 1 week. I don't remember when it was.
been a while.
Yeah, it's been a
It
while.
feels like it's been forever ago, given how fast games move and new things come out, and you jump onto the next project. But
Especially this time of year.
yeah, it's busy season for us.
So you did the review. I've been playing as well, and Brian, you've been playing.
Yeah, I'm getting through the campaign right now.
How far are you in?
I would say a little over half.
A little over half. I finished it this weekend.
Yeah, it's shorter than most Call of Duty campaigns, around 5-ish, 6 hours.
Okay, I think it's crazy you finished it in 5 hours. I did not finish it in 5 hours. Now, I will admit I was battling this horrible kind of annoying bug the whole way through, so I may have slowed me down, but I don't think I finished in 5 hours.
What were you playing on? PC or
PC,
Okay.
yeah.
I played on PS4. What are you on?
PS4.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a weird there was a bug that told me everyone that was on my
Oh, I saw your tweet. Yeah.
and I couldn't show a picture of it because I didn't want to put all my friends' names up on Twitter, right? But basically, I mean, stuck in the middle of the screen was like that, and it if someone logged into World of Warcraft, it had them appear 3 times. So it was just a big long spam of everyone playing
So it's
different
covering
games.
up part of your view screen?
Oh, it was like going over people's faces in the cutscene.
That's very hard mode. That's
Wow.
You have
the
to
opposite
change
of
that
realism.
setting.
So and the thing is too is every time it happened or when it would come up, it wouldn't go away. It would never fade away, which you're oh, that'll fade away, and it wouldn't. So I would be playing the game and be I just can't take it, and then escape options. No. What about this one? Okay, that option didn't get rid of it. Try it again. And I was
God.
just trying to fail my way through removing it because every once in a while it would just fade away, and I'd be what happened? What made it go away?
If you can actually see your screen, you can finish it in around 5 hours.
Yeah, probably. So why don't you give us a rundown of of your take on the campaign? Let's talk about that first.
Sure. Yeah. So it's a 3-headed monster of a game. So there is campaign, multiplayer, and co-op.
Mm-hmm.
Campaign was not in Black Ops 4. People
Yes.
cried out this is a pillar of this series, and it's great to see it back in this Infinity Ward developed iteration of not really a reboot, but
A reimagination.
yeah, I think that's a good way to put it, of
Yeah.
modern warfare. This is the kind of the banner that put this series on the map. Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare was
Yeah.
the new direction that set the standard for this annualized series, and it's great to be back in the campaign, and I didn't really like the focus. I've always enjoyed this series for its Jerry Bruckheimer, Michael Bay-esque huge wars. You're kind of Rambo in it, one-man army, running through these huge battlefields filled with explosions and shrapnel and all that stuff, vehicles everywhere. This one, they really kind of went more intimate and kind of wanted to showcase the horrors of war. They really loved Zero Dark 30, that movie.
Yeah.
The Jack Ryan Amazon series. I see that kind of DNA in this experience. And I think the story is very good, right? The tale they tell is usually in the Call of Duty games, it's okay, who am I playing as? What's going on now? What time frame is it?
Yeah, for a long time they loved to bounce around, and you're always what
You
am
never
I
saw
doing
your
and where?
character.
Yeah,
you just saw the hands. You're who am I
Yeah.
now?
Yeah.
But this one, they do a good job of you see the character and it zooms into their
Yeah,
head.
it's you're Alex. You knew.
Yeah,
you knew who you were.
and I think the story they're telling has some nice twists and turns. It's intriguing all the way through from the beginning. Right away, you're whoa, what's going on? Who's the bad guy here? But a lot of it has to do with, okay, let's clean out this house, this high rise. Okay, we're going in as a team. Clear. Open this next door. Oh, a woman jumps out in front of you. did you accidentally shoot her or not? Well, it's not going to finish, end the mission. It's going to keep pulling you forward. These are casualties of war, the horrors of war that they're really trying to present.
I've had it end my mission a couple of times because of that.
Yeah,
well,
you
if you
can't
shoot
make
your own
mistakes.
teammates.
No, I've had a civilian. It says civilian casualties will not be tolerated or something like that, and it failed me out.
Huh.
Yeah, I mean, it has they really tried to go with something they felt would hit home with like a little bit of political view. I think it's interesting that they're trying to make the story interesting. Number one, I know I just said interesting twice, but I like that they're trying to push the story forward. They did get a lot of grief at the first reveal, which they showed. You get to play as a little girl in one of the missions who
flashback.
A flashback of her youth, and it's a lot of the parts and the elements of that are like compelling of like giving that character depth and understanding where she comes from, which I love as far as like building those things out. But it goes a little far.
Oh gosh.
And in some people's minds, and not only did that one go a little far in some people's minds, but there's one of the later levels, a sniper level, which I know sounds weird to say, was one of the better levels I felt like in the single player campaign. Featured the Highway of Death, which in this case it blames it on the Russians, which it is actually something that happened that the Americans did as people left Kuwait in 1991. So there are a lot of people angry too that they're kind of whitewashing history or reblaming. Actually, the game got review bombed because they were like, you're treating the Russians unfairly and pinning something on them that they've done. And by the way, all sides in this have done something that's been some kind of war crime at some level, somewhere along the way. I don't know that this was an intentional whitewash by the Call of Duty group, but it certainly is one of those other things that they're trying to push the envelope, but as they push it, the envelope is certainly pushing back. And I know from your review, you had a couple things that you felt crossed the line.
Yeah, I mean, there's a waterboarding sequence, which is just like torture. It's like, okay, we've done that in games before, but they turn it into a mini game where you're like,
oh no,
moving your head to like dodge water, which is just like, this is super weird. And just, why are you gamifying this moment? And I think that the same way with when you're playing as the girl, she's what, 7 years old, maybe?
They're
She's
two
very
kids.
young.
Yeah, they're two kids.
But I mean, she sees her
Their children.
dead mom, and then that alone is like, oh God, you're like, like Andy said, like you really feel for her in that moment. But then they take it to the next level of like, you're with her dad in a house, and all of a sudden you're like using a scissors as a knife, and you're stabbing a Russian in the chest, and then you're using a gun and shooting other people, and you're like, this is a little much.
Yeah,
like I get their message, and I know what they want to show, but it just gamifying it like that just felt a little wrong to me.
So we watched that. That's one of the two sequences we watched when we were at the studio for the cover story.
Yeah.
And after they like turned the lights back on, like the two narrative directors are sitting right next to us. We all just kind of looked at each other like, holy hell. Like that was a lot. There was that one and the one of cleaning out the townhome, which so far has been my favorite mission in the game, even though I knew exactly what was going to happen. It's like, it just felt so cool to like walk through as a coordinated team, just taking out room by room.
Yeah, I think that's the one interesting thing that they did move forward to try to make the game feel a little different. I think you're right, Reiner. They do miss a lot of those big roller coaster moments that like that kind of, big war out of control. But I definitely know they were trying to show that this is modern warfare, that it's not, planes and aircraft carriers. It's soldiers on the ground in caves and things like that. That's really a point they were trying to make. But I thought the other thing too was that, like, I love the townhouse level, but it's also like one of those examples of like Call of Duty is really good when it's linear, but it's also less creative when it's linear.
For sure.
Yeah.
And then they have these other levels where they try to be more creative, which I like, but you can always kind of break that creative fiction by like running ahead too early.
Sure.
And you screw up the scripting, and it's like trying to shoot you and it thinks you're over there. And it's not that you were so cool and flanked them. Or flanked them. It's that literally you kind of like broke the way the scripting is intended to kind of like play out as they lead you through the stuff. So, I love that they're trying to push the story forward. I don't know that this was my favorite like way to do it, but they also I think they need to solve how to make like kind of open world Call of Duty in some way to bridge the gap. I think you're right. You're having some of those bigger moments, but also making those moments feel like you have a little bit more control.
Yeah, right. You look back at Modern Warfare, the Call of Duty 4, and some of the best moments were like Captain Price, who's fantastic in this game.
He's amazing in this. He's really
good.
Yeah.
And he's always around. Like, he's front and center for a lot of this. But lying in the grass with him in Modern Warfare was an amazing moment. But then you think like, okay, the nuke moment and those big, huge war zones, you never see stuff like that. There are big battles in this against, 30 guys, but it's not, it'll be like an airplane hangar, that you got to clear out. It's not like a huge full level usually. And then they do other things of throwing civilians into harm's way of like suicide bombers and stuff like that, where they really want you to see like the toll war takes, right?
Yeah.
And I get that. I really do. And I think the story as a whole is one of the best yet.
Yeah.
But I didn't have that much fun playing through some of these sequences. I thought they were very scripted, like you said.
Yeah.
Where I was just kind of being pulled along or just maybe shooting a gun once or twice and then watching a lot of it. So
I do want to point out, not to interrupt you for a second, but there was one level, the Going Dark, which is the second to last level that I felt was the closest to what we just discussed.
Sure.
Even that kind of, that's the one where I don't want to spoil anything because it is late in the game, but you come across a town, a castle kind of thing that has 3 points where something you're looking for could be. I'm trying to keep this, and like you get to go onto the grounds and like infiltrate a base, and the way you want to infiltrate it, it's up to you, right? And there are certain things that trigger as you go through it, but that's why I felt it was the perfect mix of like having some choice, and then also having the kind of moments break up. And kind of go down the path of.
I want to play that game all the way through.
Exactly,
Yeah,
I agree.
yeah.
I thought that was, but like one of my favorite levels. Obviously, I like the sniper levels are always fun. I think you still need something like that. But I really liked how that mix.
They did some interesting stuff.
So there is some really great stuff in that campaign. But I agree. So what score did you end up giving the game?
875.
875.
And that's not because of the single player campaign. It's multiplayer. And I know that's the song and dance we've been singing since this series launched, that multiplayer is king in Call of Duty. And that's the case here again. Like the competitive component is really strong in ways you wouldn't expect, right? Yes, you still have team deathmatch and stuff like that, but 2v2 is my favorite mode in this game.
Gunfight.
Yeah.
So much fun.
And it's just instant action, immediate results. You could finish a 6-point match, the first team to 6 in 5 to 10 minutes. And then just move on to the next one. Level playing field in terms of symmetrical level design. So, a lot of the geometry is the same on both sides. Loadout's the same for both sides as well. So it's like, and you can't camp. You can't just lay in the grass.
Well, there's a timer and a flag.
Yeah.
I mean, like there's.
Once the timer goes down, you're in overtime, and they put a flag in the middle of the map, and they're like, first team to capture that wins. So if you're laying in the grass, you lose.
Yeah.
They're compact as well. Like the levels aren't huge. Like it's perfect for 2v2.
I had a blast with Gunfight. I just think that is such a cool, new, fun, quick mode. And they said they're going to add tournaments soon, so you can have like a big NCAA type bracket and work, have your team work your way through that.
And I believe that's the mode that wasn't even a real mode. Like they used that for like testing, and then they were like,
fell in love with it.
They're like, this is so much fun. We should put this in the game. And they're like, all right, yeah, we were just kind of testing out some different guns in like a compact environment. It's like, all right, let's put this in the game.
Yeah, it is really great. And also too, I think I feel like they've done some work to change the overall kind of experience. I feel like it's a little slower. The time to kill. Is still very fast. Call of Duty still a ripping game, but I mean, like it feels a little bit slower. The level design in this particular one for a lot of the maps, I've been playing pretty hardcore the last 3 days.
What mode?
Mostly like I do quick play. I have done the what is it, Ground War.
Yeah, the reimagined Ground War.
Which I like. I've been enjoying the kind of the smaller maps at this point. But you can get 20 people in a game.
Deathmatch.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
It's wild.
It has domination and things like that. I like the search and destroy type missions. I think they're fun. But I think the level design this time is really trying to like push that there's more approaches to every room.
Right.
And also too, I felt like one of the things that's a little crazy right now is footsteps are so loud. They are so crazy loud, and I'm not entirely sure I understand the stealth. And I know it sounds silly to say stealth, but like when I'm aiming down sights, how much noise am I making, right?
Oh,
how much noise am I making when I'm crouched? It seems really kind of all over the map at this point because everything is so loud, and I'm kind of like, where are these footsteps? They sound like Godzilla is approaching. And so I think that's one of the interesting things that's going on, and the map design is definitely meant to kind of, I mean, there's times like I've spawned, I'm like, where am I?
Yeah.
Like Piccadilly is, I think, a good example of that. You're like, which side of the buses am I on? Okay, there's that store. Okay, cool. I've kind of got my
it takes some
bearings.
time. Yeah.
So I feel like they're pretty complex maps. But the interesting thing this year is that you level weapons.
Yes, it's like they're a character in an RPG, right? Like,
Yeah.
So they gain experience for use and successes, and you will unlock as you level up, kind of like you did in the game before, where you were going from 1 to 50 to prestige. You level up your guns, and they get different unlocks along the way at every big milestone
And
or
there's
whatever.
so much customization for the guns. It's crazy.
50 to 60 items per gun.
Yeah, it is nuts.
So, and it's not just like camo and stuff like that,
Yeah.
which you get, but you get, like you put the grenade launcher on your M4 and then different sights and
like a long range shotgun.
Yeah, it's meant to be a game of like you can have accuracy or you can have movement speed. These are
Right.
things you have to concede some things, but you only get 5 add-ons
Yeah.
out of like
pros and
multiple
cons for
slots.
everything.
Yeah.
So they tried to balance it, but I'll tell you this, like my M4 right now is going to smoke any new players, right? Like there's no balance for like a new player jumping into that game. They're just going to get wrecked. It's going to be a game of pain to get their loadouts powered up, right?
I agree, especially too because I've tried to change weapons some. You know what I mean? I'm like, I grab a new weapon. I'm like, oh, I really like this weapon. I wonder if I'll like it 14 hours from now after I level up because early on it is. I will admit, I think this is a neat system. It is annoying to come in with a deficit.
Right. Well,
almost immediately.
That's the thing they need to start looking at in matchmaking is like, okay, let's not just match player level and their skill, but you got to factor in that weapon then too. Because if you're just going in with a clean loadout, you should be going against new players then.
Yeah.
Kind of, right?
Kinda.
Like,
I mean,
you
like,
think
if you
know
have the
map
skill,
better,
it won't matter. But I
Right.
mean, like, not everyone is ready to go pro in Call of Duty and can just like laser someone with any gun.
Right.
Like, there is an advantage to having those perks on your weapons unlocked. There is no doubt.
Yeah, and I think it's fun. Like I really latched onto my one loadout that I was rocking with, right?
Yeah.
And every little success, it's like, oh, I got something new. Let's see if this is something I want to use. I think that's fun. It is a longer progression now.
Yeah,
Like you're saying, it's not just
significantly longer.
prestiging and getting everything you need. But at the same time, like if you play the game a certain way, like you're going to love it. Like I usually stick with the same kind of guns and work my way through, the campaign or the multiplayer that way.
I agree. The only thing is that it's funny when I switched weapons, I'd be like, I really want to, because people are running around with that shotgun that is like one-shotting people from like 15 yards, which is nuts. That's like the greatest shotgun in the history of shotguns. And I was like, oh, I want to do that for a bit. But falling back to a weapon that's at the beginning, I was like, oh, I'm losing all my stuff later. And so I I didn't want to like lose or have a bad KD for a bit because I was switching weapons. So I was kind of forced. So I found it great, but also a little bit boring that I was always using the same gun. I wanted a little bit more variety, I think, in my play. But
What's
all right.
your KD?
Oh, it's probably garbage. I mean, I'm like
I'm a 1.4, so like that's kind of my Call of Duty like historic.
that's your
me.
historic
Yeah.
number. I haven't been looking because I've definitely been exploring and trying to figure out what I like. I think I'd be lucky if I was a 1 at this point. I've been getting smoked, and I've been learning. I've
It's
been
a
playing.
little different this year.
By the way,
because-
I've been playing Call of Duty like I'm playing Destiny,
okay,
which is
What's that
not
mean?
the best plan.
What's that mean?
Like I've just been really aggressive, and I probably shouldn't be really aggressive. I feel like in particular there are great players. Like the great players are able to run and gun, but I feel like right now a lot of players are camping. There's a lot of camping going on. I mean, I laughed. There was someone put it on Twitter. It's like the new Call of Duty Modern Warfare multiplayer. You walk up to a street, and you're like, window, 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 no one, no one, no one, no one. Start to run across the street. 17 people shoot you. And it's like, it's kind of true. You're like, oh, I think this is all good. And then you walk out and there are a million people camping in a bunch of spots. And so
One of the
I've
new,
done better when I have started to camp and I don't know that I love that I'm camping.
one of the new things they have is a variation of night vision mode. I don't know if you've done it.
Yeah, the realism mode.
It's hilarious because like during our review event, we had a lot of snipers, especially the people playing on PC. It's all crossplay, by the way.
Yeah.
But they were just like, it was like a breadcrumb trail because we start playing this mode and they're laying down with the laser sights and we're just we have night vision on, so we just see this line. It's
See
like,
the lasers, yeah.
look up, boom, dead. And if they had to adapt and play a different way, I think that's cool about that mode. That one's a lot of fun and really intense.
Yeah.
Yes.
And realism mode, too.
Yeah.
Which, when I finally equipped the grenade launcher on my M4, we booted up realism mode, and you can't see your crosshairs. And I was like, "Ah, crap! I picked the wrong match to use this for the first time." But multiplayer is really good as a whole. That's the bread and butter of Call of Duty again, and campaign's worth playing through. Multiplayer's great.
Spec Ops, yeah.
Special Ops, Spec Ops, whatever they call it, is kind of a disaster. What we played, a lot of unfair spawns, at least. When we played it, right, like enemies spawning like behind a pillar behind you. Like there's a wall behind us. We cleared out this little alcove and they're spawning in there. It's like, that's not fair. But it's very hard. So if you want a
spawns
real
across
challenge.
the game, by the way, are a little weak. Even
Yeah.
I think in multiplayer too. I think that's one of the things they did take a little step back on.
Yeah, we got some spawn camping going a little bit too.
You can spawn camp.
But yeah, it's a big map. It almost feels like Blackout a little bit. You got the four-wheelers and vehicles, a lot of helicopters coming in. Different objectives pop up on the map in Spec Ops, and it's kind of fun to go hack a computer, hold down a room long enough, as enemies are coming in every which way. But it's so hard. And you get into these unfair things where maybe you are sniping on a ridge, and all of a sudden an enemy spawns behind you and kills you in a second. Your team has to scramble to try to revive you. You get into these kind of unwinnable scenarios where it's just like you're just losing, and you gotta. The checkpoints aren't great, right? Like you go back and there's you got a lot of progress to make up again. We just didn't have fun playing that. It was just kind of like the weakest of the three pillars of Call of Duty. Hopefully they can patch it or figure out a way to make it a little bit more fair. But it really kind of sapped the fun of running and gunning, blitzing in Call of Duty.
Yeah, I hear you. What do you think? Have you played any multiplayer, Brian?
I haven't played much multiplayer. I haven't played any special ops, but yeah, I mean, I think that I love realism mode. I love gunfight. I haven't dug into the other modes so much.
There's a lot.
I'm concerned about like the modes that I typically gravitate towards with Call of Duty, like hearing what you guys are talking about, like kill confirmed. I'm worried about all the camping and ground war, especially because that's such like a camper friendly mode.
But you can roll in with a tank,
That's true.
If you got people on the ridge with a sniper rifle and just wave to them with a rocket.
But I mean, that's a Call of Duty thing, though. Is like when someone starts to steamroll you and get kill streaks upon kill streaks upon kill streaks. I mean, there's definitely an avalanche that can happen to a bad team that is
in ground war,
is
especially.
crazy, yeah.
And if you're the best player in the world, one player. These are 64-player matches, by the way. It's Call of Duty's answer to Battlefield, where you're capturing points. But it's like you said, like you'll have vehicles rolling in and kill streaks raining down like you wouldn't believe, and it's just like it's over. Like you can't recover from that at a certain point because you just keep dying and they keep getting more kill
They keep getting
streaks.
better and better stuff.
Yeah, I mean it's but I mean that's a Call of Duty, I think, hallmark is that if you're great, you can own in this game, right?
Yeah.
And that the noobs are there to be eaten.
If you worry about your kill to death, by the way, you might want to avoid ground war.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you could get picked off from any vector. Like it's just
so many
there's people
different
everywhere.
angles.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is pretty nuts. Well, I'm excited about the game. I've really been enjoying playing multiplayer. It's definitely something that if you, I think you want to check out. I think the campaign's worth doing, right? Especially if you're a big multiplayer fan. Like it's something at some point you're going to want to do. But multiplayer is still the calling card of Call of Duty.
Yeah, it's not my favorite multiplayer or Call of Duty game overall, but I appreciate the new things they tried. Man, Modern Warfare. I loved Black Ops.
Yeah. Black Ops the
I
original.
really
or are you
liked
talking about
Infinite Warfare's campaign.
Yeah,
The
Infinite
big
Warfare had a great
starships.
campaign.
A couple of the Black Ops, I would say, multiplayer wise, Modern Warfare 1 and 2 definitely for multiplayer.
It's
we
so
played the
interesting.
hell out of those.
Going back to Infinite Warfare, it's so interesting that the guys, like the Naughty Dog guys that came over to Infinity Ward, that Infinite Warfare was their first game. That's like one of the most bombastic, like over the top campaigns they've done. And then they dialed it completely back with this in terms of like how like Michael Bay-esque it is.
Yeah, maybe it was more Last of Us people coming from Naughty Dog.
All right. Well, let's move on. Let's talk about the next game. So, I have not, played Luigi. I don't believe Reiner has either.
Just at E3.
I saw the crazy haunted house they had at E3 and the crazy events they've done. So why don't you tell us about it, Brian?
Yeah, so as the name would indicate, it's the third entry in the Luigi's Mansion series. Throwing a little bit of a change up from the first two games, you're not actually cleaning out a haunted mansion, you're cleaning out a haunted hotel. So,
whoa, twist!
Yeah, the biggest of twists. So Mario, Luigi, Peach, and a bunch of Toads go to this hotel. They check into their rooms, and then Luigi wakes up, and all of his friends have been captured. So he's going room to room, floor to floor, trying to save all of them. They've all been sucked into like these picture frames in true Mario fashion. They all went into pictures.
It's not a bad way to go.
No, it's not. But having to stare out into the world, moving on without you.
Art.
But it sounds pretty horrible to me. By the way, I'd like to. Being stuck forever watching some empty room or watching people pass
are you
by.
conscious?
That sounds.
If you're not conscious, you're just an image. That's cool. That's better than being
That's
under.
dead, by the way.
That's better than being under the ground. At least you got an imprint of you somehow.
I mean, it's not like the pictures of you go away, like when you die. You know what I mean? Okay, but we're off topic here. Sure, yes. Continue.
So every floor is themed. So there's like a medieval theme. There's a pirate ship theme. There's all kinds of different areas for you to explore. There's a movie set theme, which is really cool. And they do a lot of like environmental puzzles and encounters with these ghosts that have you like chaining together Luigi's different moves that he gets from his ghost vacuum. And they do really good breadcrumbing with like, here's where you should do with here's what you should use this vacuum for this, because it has different move sets. So like there's a strobe light that stuns ghosts. There's a dark light that reveals like hidden things, like haunted items throughout the environment that you can then interact with. There's a burst jump that lets him like jump over like obstacles. There's all kinds of stuff. And then it also introduces Luigi, which I'm sure you've seen around. It's just that slimy version of Luigi. And he's an abomination before God. But
can you say Luigi again, please?
Luigi.
Okay.
Luigi.
Right, just make sure I'm pronouncing that correct.
Basically, it's just a slimy clone of Luigi.
Gotcha.
And he can because he's made of slime, he can squeeze through grates and like go down drains and stuff. But if he touches water, he melts. So he can reach areas that Luigi can't, obviously. But at the same time, Luigi has to clear paths for him. So like if there's a leaky faucet or something like that that's dripping down, he can't go through there. So Luigi has to go and shut off the valve and then switch back to Luigi. And you're bouncing back and forth between these characters a lot, but you can just click the right stick on your controller and bounce back and forth between these characters.
Gotcha.
Or you can play co-op with a friend locally and have one person controlling Luigi and one person controlling Luigi, and it's a lot more streamlined. The encounters are a lot easier because you have two vacuums instead of one. You have the same movesets as Luigi, and yeah, it's a pretty fun game. It's fun single player or co-op, and then there's also a co-op mode called Scare Scraper, which is a lot of fun, and it's like up to 8 players at a time, going room to room on a floor, just clearing rooms out of ghosts, finding secrets, and then you have a 5-minute time limit, I believe it is. And you have to clear out the rooms before the time expires, and then you get to move on to the next level. And there's a ton of secrets, but you have to be judicious with your time, because if you run out of time without clearing out all the ghosts, it's just game over. But like there are some really interesting rewards if you poke around. Like there was one that like alerted you of traps, like it was a little alarm that he wore on his head.
That's 8 player?
Up to 8 players.
Is that online? Mm-hmm. So co-op isn't though?
Not in story, no.
Huh. That's weird.
Is that considered co-op though? You work together. It's not competitive. Is it competitive multiplayer?
You're cooperating to clear off the floor, but then everybody's scored based on what they do. So I guess it's kind of cooperative and competitive.
Do you feel like you're competing when you play it?
No, I mean, it's cool to be like, oh, I got the highest score that round. Cool. But like, it's like we're working together to like, all right, I'm taking this room, you're taking that room. And then also there's like, it's called Scream Park, and it's just like 3 Mario Party style mini games. That's the only like true competitive multiplayer, and they're mostly they're fun. But like after 1 or 2 playthroughs of each mode, I'm like, I'm ready to go back to the story.
Does the other one scale? Like if you don't have 8 people, does it have a matchmaking lobby or anything like that? Or
it does have a matchmaking lobby. I'm not sure if it scales actually.
Like if you only had 4 people or anything like
that.
that?
I was
be a lot harder.
I was working through it. I played with one of our interns, and we were just doing 2-player, and we were able to get through some of the floors. So I guess it scales. 'Cause it would be what we did would be way too easy with 8 players.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Cool. That's interesting. So I saw in your review that you mentioned that you felt the controls were maybe a little clumsy.
Yeah, I think because like there's so much going on like with his so it's a fixed camera. It's not like, you're not controlling the camera, but because of that, it combines like the right stick for aiming, but you're aiming in like multiple axes. So it's like, all right, twin stick shooter if you think about it, like you aim with the right stick and then you shoot. But this, because you're also aiming up and down, it just gets in the way. So there's actually a control for like changing it from omnidirectional to just controlling the horizontal with the right stick. And I thought that was so much easier.
Gotcha.
And then you have motion controls, which just like the mention of motion controls for aiming makes me cringe. But just because like you're just moving the controller up or down, that made it a lot more
That felt better
precise,
to you.
I thought.
Yeah. Okay. So it's kind of like you're in a room and you're just like kind of managing that in like 3D space.
Yeah, basically. And like it has kind of like a not quite isometric, because I think you're a little bit lower than like an isometric camera, but like it's a fixed camera angle, so it makes aiming a bit more difficult.
Where do you put it in the trilogy? Where does it rank?
I think it's fun. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's I don't know. I think
I love the
it's
first
better
one.
than the first
Yeah,
one, I would
it's
say,
such a
just
neat
because it's
game.
more modern. It's a more diverse experience because every floor has a different theme. I think the boss battles are a lot of fun. I think that's actually the best part of the story is the boss battles. There's like in the movie set one, I don't want to spoil it, but like they do a really cool job paying homage to like the kaiju movies of the past. And like it's actually pretty funny. And then there's different boss battles for every theme. Like the medieval level I mentioned has like a knight riding around. You have to use like the new move that you learned in that level, like that to try and take off his armor piece by piece and then like reveal the ghost underneath the armor and then stun him and then vacuum him up. So yeah, they got really creative with it.
So Nintendo Magic, yes.
Yes.
You didn't answer
Yes.
my question. 1, 2, or 3?
I like
Where's
3.
Three's the best. Okay.
I think so.
Well, there you go. The best
Yeah.
in the series.
I
I think a lot of people were not huge fans of Dark Moon, and I think 1 was great in its time, but it isn't. This one feels a lot more modern, even though the controls may have not modernized completely.
The first one was a nice GameCube launch title. That dates
exactly.
me. But yeah, that was just a neat kind of diversion. I know everybody wanted Mario, but
And also,
it was cool.
It's so nice having it on the Switch. Whereas right now, if you want to play the first one, you're either on 3DS or GameCube, which makes it a lot less accessible or available to play. And then Dark Moon is only on 3DS, so it's nice to have the option to play handheld on like an HD screen or up on the TV.
Yeah, I felt this one. I know this is just me like kind of making things up as like a feeling, but it felt like Nintendo really was invested in this one, which is like the first time I felt like they were like, this is a pillar title for us.
Yeah.
Not like just kind of one of those like, oh yeah, we've got one of our characters and he's in kind of one of these offshoot kind of games. That I felt like this was the first time, at least when I spoke to him, it really felt like this was like something that they were like behind as a like franchise and a series and something that they believed in maybe a little bit more. I know that sounds a little crazy, but
No.
I'm
I'm glad they're sticking with it.
Yeah.
Because it's been kind of a cult series to this point.
I feel like that too.
I think they may feel that this might be the one that kind of transcends, given the popularity of the Switch and how on fire about the system they are.
Well, I mean, it's an interesting holiday for Switch. Do you know
It's
what
a
I
hell of
mean?
a year for them.
I mean,
They've had a sneaky good year, I think.
they've had a lot of great games come over. Things like Witcher, which Switcher people they're like kind of
love
blown
that.
away.
Yeah.
Blown away that it's come over there. It does have some like concessions made for it, but this is I do feel like this is a little bit of a with just Luigi. It feels like a little bit of a weaker Nintendo year, but a very strong year for
but you got
Switch.
Pokemon.
Yeah,
Oh, that's right, I
Pokemon comes
In
forgot
a
out
about
couple
this.
in 2
coming
weeks.
out.
That might be the best-selling game of the year.
Yeah, it probably is going to be the best-selling game of the year. It's going to be. I mean, it's going to be Call of Duty, Pokemon. They're gonna
Maybe
have a
Star Wars.
Yeah,
we'll
maybe
see.
Star Wars. There's gonna be a battle certainly.
Star Wars
but-
comes out the same day as Pokemon, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's such a great game, or such a great day for gaming
Yeah, when do we get a review of Pokemon?
I don't know.
and Star Wars. I want to
Yeah.
play that. I want to play both of them.
Yeah, we haven't gotten those yet. That's
We have not.
Well, hopefully soon.
They're 2 weeks
Hopefully
out
soon.
still.
Yeah, indeed. Well, thank you both for coming
Yeah.
on and chatting about these great games, and we'll come back here shortly with Joe, Miller, and Kim, and we will talk about a bunch of different games, do some reader mail. I think I'm somewhat on track and not ruining the show quite yet.
It
so
has been a great talk so far.
okay,
So
well, thank you guys for coming on.
best of luck with the rest of it.
All right, thanks. Hello, welcome back to the Game Informer Show. I am Andy McNamara, your host, and we are heading into this second segment with Matt Miller,
Hello.
Kim,
Hello.
and Joe.
Hi.
You must know these people. They work here.
Here we are.
How you guys doing?
Really good. How you doing, Andy?
I'm hosting a show.
You're doing good so far. Yeah. way to
I'm
go, man.
surviving.
Yeah, you know, I'm doing my best to try to make sure I'm listening this time. I got a lot of flack on my guest spots when I took over for Hanson for yapping too much, which, by the way, I'm doing right now.
So what are we talking
So
about?
let's move on. So we had a bunch of games to cover here, and I wanted to, and they couldn't really have their own segment, but I figured we should at least touch on them. So we have this kind of an indie segment where we're going to talk about 3 different games. You've all played them. One of them Joe and I have played, but we're not done. But we figured it was kind of important enough to discuss a little bit. So those games are Afterparty, which Kim has written the review on. Mm-hmm. We also have Lonely Mountain Downhill, which Miller's working on the review on, could be up by the time you hear this.
Very likely.
And then Disco Elysium, which Joe and I are playing. Big game, long game. It's heralded. A lot of great scores are out on the game already.
Yeah.
So we're going to discuss that. But let's start with the Afterparty.
You want to get right to the party.
I want to get right to the
You
party.
wanna
Start
get
with the
right
after
to
party.
Yeah, that's
the-
right. We're doing this backwards, right?
You want to get right going to hell and spending your time drinking and partying
Yeah, so, all
all
right.
the time.
I have walked past the chaos of this game and said, that's just too much for me to deal with right now. So, obviously, I think Night School Studio, very well respected, did Oxenfree, was loved by many people. So, tell me, what is the Afterparty?
Yeah, basically Afterparty is a game that's very similar to Oxenfree in the sense of it is very dialogue driven. You are basically doing what you did in Oxenfree, which I thought was really cool, is you're walking across the screen kind of like the puppet master of like a play that's going on, you know? You're like, you can choose to walk past people, you can choose to skip parts of conversations, you can, choose to explore and find different passages and routes. Basically, what happens is there's 2 friends, Milo and Lola, and they're both just graduated from college, kind of going out into the world. And then an accident happens and they end up in hell, but they don't know like what happened to the accident, why they died, but they find out hell is not exactly what they expected.
It's an Afterparty.
It is a party. You work your 9-to-5 job and then you go and you party and then you get up and you do it all again the next day, which probably would get old.
What
at
kind of
some
9-to-5
point.
jobs do people have in hell?
Like a security guard, I saw, like just basic, like
Just like normal jobs.
yeah, just like normal jobs.
Okay,
You do your
okay.
9-to-5, you get off, you drink to excess, and then you start up
So-
the next day again.
So it's possible this game is maybe trying to make a little commentary on modern society.
well, that's what's interesting about it is
Maybe,
you're like
it's not exactly
it
subtle.
doesn't judge you, but it's this weird thing of, is it really a good thing to be spending would you want to have a hell where you just spent your days every night going out with friends, drinking, having a good time? Does that seem okay to some people? That might seem okay. And it doesn't judge you either way on what of anything you do or say in the game, which I thought they did really well with the ambiguity on it, like these different choices you make and why. But as you're going through the game, basically, you have all these tasks. You're trying to figure out how to get into Satan's house, where he has the ultimate party, and the loophole to get out of hell is
wait,
that you
so-
outdrink him.
Okay. But is that a thing you do during your day job that you're trying to get in there, or are you trying
you
to
don't
like?
you don't see any of the day jobs. So this all takes place over the course of one night where you haven't even started whatever 9-to-5 you would get.
Okay.
So it always flashes forward to the following evening.
Well, it's always just that evening. The whole game takes place in that one evening.
Oh,
Of
okay.
you trying to figure out, can you get out of hell, or are you going to become a member of it and have that 9-to-5 job? And what would that 9-to-5 job be for you?
For a second, I thought you were like Groundhog Daying the shit out of this,
Yeah,
and
that's
I
what I
was
thought,
gonna be
too.
like, this was gonna be hard.
No.
Okay,
it's
so
just,
it's one party.
yeah.
Okay, all right.
One night where you figure out that, hey, like Milo and Lola say, this was an accident. Like, I don't think we were supposed to be here. I don't think we were supposed to die. Like, what did we do to even get sent to hell? And you find out, like, there is a loophole that you can get out if you can outdrink Satan,
That's crazy.
who is the ultimate, I mean, I don't want to go up against the devil in a drinking contest. I don't think I'd do that great, but...
So did you find the like unraveling of those mysteries to be satisfying? Like, do you feel like you have a good hand in how that unfolds?
Yeah, I think what I like that the game does, and it kind of subverts your expectations because you're like, oh, this is just fun. Like the mini games are all kind of drinking games, like beer pong and, dance contests and just like stacking, that drinking game stacking where you put the cups and try to stack as many as you can, I guess.
You have way more experience. In
Okay,
drinking games than I do.
well, it's like I was going back to college in a way, kind of thinking of these. Oh yeah, I guess.
Miller and I
this
went
is
to,
Liam.
our campus was dry. We did no drinking.
So hell is a frat party.
Right.
Well, that's what it feels like. But
Yeah.
then you realize as things start going on and you get further into the game, Milo and Lola, their friendship is. It's at a weird point, let's say, and it's kind of complicated right now because one of them is considering moving away. It's that whole, like, you are about to start the next chapter in your life, and what does that mean with friendships? And, like, that's what I liked because I feel like that time after you graduate college, you're just kind of like, whoa.
Well, and it can feel like, I remember that sensation as well, that it can feel like hell. Like if you've got a job that you hate.
Or like
and
you're
you've gone to
leaving
school
people
for,
behind.
Yeah, you're leaving people behind, and you haven't yet found a job that you enjoy, and so you're just working at something that you have to work at. That can be pretty hellish, and so they're sort of personifying that as it's actually hell, and seeing
Well, I
what they
like
can
that,
say
like,
about
too.
it, right?
Like alcohol in general kind of has like this sinister, reputation for temptation and like going excess and what that can mean. And I think the game explores that in a way you wouldn't expect, and in a very interesting way. I'll put it that way. But basically, as you go through, you are trying to find ways around all these obstacles. So maybe there's like a doorman that you have to figure out how to get around, or, how are you going to convince this character to help you? Just different little puzzles you go to as you hear the conversations between Milo, Lola, and other people they meet along the way and figure out kind of what that means in the larger sense of the story.
So, I mean, what is it trying to tell you about yourself? What is the lesson that you think the game is trying to convey? Or is that too spoilerish?
Well,
to
I
discuss?
don't think it's a lesson so much. I think it is basically, what I like is they pose a lot of questions, but they never give you the answers. It's something that would change for every person. Like, what would you consider to be a happy life, a life well lived? And it's something that kind of gets explored throughout that whole crazy night and process, which would be different for everybody. I think the game makes you make choices, but the choices really don't come into play until that very ending scene, which I was a little disappointed with because I thought some mattered more than they actually did. And they didn't. But the endings were drastically I played it twice, so the two different endings I got were drastically different. And I felt like they both said different things, but also kind of crossed over in that same, like, well, would this be what is considered like happiness to you? Or would you feel like this was the way you'd want, like, to spend your last days? Would you want to be up in the world doing stuff? Would you want to be down in hell drinking it away? I don't know. I don't know what, like I said, I don't know what exactly the answer would be because they do present different sides to why certain things would be better over other. Like, is your ideal world something where you are with your friends and can be with them? Or is it like pursuing a dream, a passion, and giving up certain things for that? So it does go into that a little bit.
So are you being cagey to not tell us stuff, or is the game a little cagey at the end?
I think it's kind of a mix of both. I don't want to flat out spoil anything for anyone, but also, like, I think the game wants you to make your own interpretations on some of that.
Okay.
But it does surprise you in the way that it all plays out and what it does. Because I just expected, I'm going to do some drinking mini games. You can drink different drinks that change your personality, so you can, like, talk like a pirate and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just through the game and have those conversations, which is more of a role play. I wish it kind of went more into your strategy, but
So this is like a make you think game, but with some funny thrown in.
yeah, and like I said, it's very clever about the way it does it. You have your interpersonal demon, Sister Mary Wormhorn, who like just all your decisions you make in the game, she ends up like throwing in your face and trying to put doubts in your mind, which is just like, she's super annoying because she's like, I don't know if I would have done that. And then you're like, but it's done so well. And like, there's just a lot of good humor. They break the fourth wall sometimes. You'll be doing something, they'll be like, oh, they totally knew that I was trying to pick that option to try to avoid making that option, and they've commented on it now. So there's a lot of cool, like they just do dialogue so well, and if you appreciate that and if you liked Oxenfree, it's definitely a game you'll want to play.
Something that really struck me about Kim's review, though, is it's like she said she played it twice, but then she said that second playthrough felt like a waste of time.
Yeah, because
why is that?
It didn't. So stuff that I said I thought mattered, like whether you made this choice or that, you'd get to the point where like that choice would surface, like the consequence of it, and you'd been like, okay, well that really didn't matter if I did it this way or that way. Like the scene is a little different, but not it doesn't have any far-reaching impact.
So the things on your first playthrough when you're like, oh wow, I wonder how that other choice would have made things play out differently, when you see it's really not that different at all.
Right. Or you're like, I thought this would be something I would need to go back and play the game for to see. And I'm like, I saw what it was, and it really wasn't something that was worth me going back and play. I'm glad I did it to see the different variations and how those two different endings came to be. But I said the real big variation is in whatever ending you get. And that just depends on choices you make in the very ending sequence even. So that's what kind of leads to that ending.
Play it once and then look it up on YouTube.
Yes, exactly.
Gotcha.
Well, that's interesting. And so it's like really what's compelling, what you'd say the thing that's best is the writing and the experience is what it's in. And how long a game was it? How long did it take you to get through like one?
It depends on how much you explore, but you could finish that game as fast as 3 hours, I think as long as 6. For that if you really do go in and like want to talk to every little person. Like I did a really thorough playthrough the first time around, and then that second time I just zipped through it really quickly because I knew what was coming.
It kind of makes me want to play it a little bit more, actually. Like I think that the kind of experience that you're describing, and those kind of interesting metaphors that the game's trying to paint, sound kind of cool. But I don't know that I need 15 hours of that. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Like if I can get through that thing in 3 to 5 hours.
It's literally a night out.
Yeah.
Like stay in, enjoy a night of the after party, and go on. And I think that's actually pretty cool as well.
Yeah.
So thank you. What score did you give it?
7.75.
7.75. All right. We always love those 7.75s.
Not quite an 8. But better
good.
than average.
But good.
Yeah.
But also, and this is one of those moments to remind people. Everyone, I've had conversations like, I can't believe our game got an 8.75. This is ridiculous, and it's like, hey, it's a good score, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like being above average in a world where there are so many great games all the time, and we do try to stick to 7 as that average. You got to remember, 7.75 is a good score. A little friendly reminder for everybody out there.
That's not
Sorry
a failure,
to get off the
Yeah.
tangent. You know what I mean? And it also points to the fact that like, Afterparty may not be for everybody, but if it's in your wheelhouse, you know what I mean? You should definitely check it out.
Yeah.
So because this one was story based, I'm going to go a little bit off script. I was actually going to finish with Disco Elysium, but I think we should transition into that.
Yeah.
So this game is an RPG that doesn't have combat and focus a lot on the dialogue and having more real world type quests that. And I don't mean like in our current world, but they feel real in this world. And this world is, I don't know what time it's set in, actually, I can't remember, but it feels like apropos to our era, right? You know what I mean? Like it doesn't feel like you're not in space, you're not in some crazy future.
No, it's a very stylized kind of world too.
But it does have that kind of, to some degree, at least but thus far in my playthrough, I've kind of come across some things where there's characters that I think fall a little bit into like cyberpunk, maybe a little bit. Not that they're cybernetic, but that they're really outlandish characters that really make a statement about a thing or a direction or an ethos.
Yeah.
Right. As a general direction. So that's me trying to set up some of the stage, but I want to know how your play has gone so far, Joe.
I'm not super far into it yet, but I guess the thing that really strikes me about it is how so far, like how responsive it seems to you. Like that's really what strikes me is the way it will like like in an opening sequence, you give this like weird, gross smile to a mirror, and you're like, I'm a superstar. And then the game references in the next like 15 or 20 minutes, like, hey, I've got this running theory that I'm really a superstar. Well, you're just this like schlubby alcoholic detective, right?
Yeah.
So it has these sort of like in-jokes in the dialogue that resurface, and a lot of the things that you're investing points into, it's kind of like knowledge, or it's not your usual because of the combat.
Yeah.
It's not like, I've got a higher constitution, I have more hit points. It's things like my the inner library of my mind has expanded, and I know more things, and I'm able to like respond to situations or get out of kind of tricky social situations a little like in clever ways.
Just yesterday, the inner library of my mind expanded.
Well, no,
I always love it when that happens.
But Miller, as a board game guy, you will be familiar with the concept of like the checks that they have going on here. Yeah. So it's not just like, hey, if this stat is this high, you make it.
Right.
It's not like that. It's your stat is this high, so there's basically a 2d6 roll that determines then like whether or not you succeed or fail at different checks.
Yeah, and it shows you those kind of like in a DM kind of sense. It shows you your general role and that you can't redo some choices you make. Sure. I think a good way to kind of discuss this is that like at the beginning of the game, you basically start this game. It's supposedly long, but I think the thing that's pointed out is it reads a lot like a novel.
Yeah.
Like and a lot of things that you do, like you even begin, it starts with a whole inner monologue with yourself and talking to the things in your own head. Right? And you answer those things, and as Joe says, it defines who you are, but then they continue to talk to you as you do things, right? So you go out and you're a detective and you're trying to solve for this, but you'll go up and talk to like the bartender who you don't remember from the night before because you are drunk, and you're trying to piece together what happened. And you go up and you talk to him, and then like you'll say like, what are you doing with that? And then your mind will go like, I don't think you're approaching this the right way. So there's this inner monologue going on all the time, and you're kind of doing these weird saving throws all the time that are going on in the background. I will admit, I don't entirely understand it, that are telling you more about where you're going. So there's a lot of like mystery in this. There's a lot of mystery in the game, which is why we were talking about a little bit early, that neither of us have finished it, but it's very intriguing because there's a lot going on, and your mind says some crazy stuff to you, and you are, as Joe said, you are this drunk detective who's confused. The world is full of extreme characters. There is a lot of mirror to the real world. There's things like there's a strike with the union. There's the people that need to cross the line. There's people angry about it. Like, where does this murder come from? There's a lot of reflection on today in this game. Even just in the early parts I've been into, your inventory, it has a regular inventory. Like you pick up items that you need to use to solve the various puzzles along the way, but it's pretty intense. Do you know what I mean? Like it's very that's the word I'm trying to think of. It's like it's like it's a very smart game, right? Like it's an intellectual game.
It's a game that I've found, one of the reasons that I'm not further in it is because I feel like you have to be in a mood.
Yes,
like,
I agree.
You have to be in a particularly focused place that you can sit down and like to really absorb, to read all the text, really absorb all the like weird color of the world,
and the kind of nuance, because it makes you make choices. Like you're going to make choices in conversations, and they are going to branch and affect the things you do,
and not in the kind of way where it's like. Another recent game that I played was The Outer Worlds, and it's not the sort of thing where it's like, oh, I'm going to say that, and then it's going to kick me back to the same screen, and then I'm going to say something else, and then it's going to kick me back to the same screen. There's some of that, but a lot of times it seems like the dialogue will just like keep going, and you don't necessarily always get that chance to like mine a situation for all of the information that you want.
Yeah, I had a couple moments where I was like, they were like, buy into this guy's like racist ethos, and I was like, wait, no, that's I don't. How do I move? All right, I gotta regroup, right? I gotta move back out. That's why I do agree with Joe. It is definitely a mood game. I tend to play it at the end of my nights when I'm like I actually like just like I want to chill and like kind of read through this thing. Like it's like a book at night kind of thing before bed. And I've really been enjoying it, but I've definitely played it for about 30, 45 minutes. And I'm like, so much to digest and then kind of come back around. So I thought it was worth talking about. We don't have a score for you yet. We will at some point.
Yeah, we'll be able to dive deeper on it in the next few weeks or whatever.
Yeah, we will definitely revisit this. I'm sure Joe will finish before I do, but it's one that's on everyone's radar. It's gotten a lot of great scores. I've seen 9 6s. I mean, I've seen very high scores for this game. A lot of people talking about it as being, really a good push forward in RPGs. And I would agree.
Yeah.
It's nice to play an RPG that's in a different world, that feels different, it's not as predictable, and to have choices and really to have some great narrative, I feel like, in the game.
Yeah. Well, and, score, with so much of the game still unknown, it's hard to say a lot about it for me definitively, apart from, like, I have not played a game like this before.
Yeah.
So there's something that's kind of exciting and clever about just, like, what is happening here?
Yes, indeed.
So I'm enjoying that element of it.
And I'm sure it's going to be one we're going to push around this office for people to play. So when we do our top 50 discussion, that I think it's a game that you're going to need to play.
Yeah, it should definitely be in the conversation.
When we get to later this year. So, and our final little segment here in the indie piece is that one that is so full of narrative, it's not even funny.
It's a huge RPG.
Yeah, it really is, which is Lonely Mountain Downhill.
Yeah, Lonely Mountains Downhill.
Lonely Mountains, sorry.
Yep. I love this game. I really like it a lot.
I've been playing it as well.
Yeah, it's the elevator pitch. I think my elevator pitch for it is take a little bit of Trials HD,
Yep.
or any of those Trials games. Take a little bit of the old classic Marble Madness.
Yeah, okay, I hear you.
And you squash them together, and then you give it this whole sort of like natural Zen aesthetic.
Okay, so how much of the aggressiveness of Trials makes it through?
None.
Okay.
It literally, with the exception of the fact that you are on a mountain bike and you're endlessly crashing, right? And so you, violent in the sense that you see a guy going off of a cliff and just tumbling into the...
Right, but it doesn't have the soundtrack, the fire spurts, the...
No, if anything, it's almost exactly a counter to that, and it's one of the things I love the most about the game. I mean, the core idea is that you are a mountain biker, and you skip the boring hard part of mountain biking, which is getting up the hill.
I could argue that, by the way. But yes, it is a downhill based.
It's hard.
Game.
That's the hard part of mountain biking.
I mean,
going
the game,
up.
It is when you go that fast.
It's called Lonely Mountains Downhill,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So it's specifically the downhill. You're never really going back up, and you just need to get from the very top of the mountain to the bottom. There's several mountains. There's several trails on any given mountain, and on a fundamental level, that's it. Get from the top to the bottom.
Yeah, it's got a like a shader kind of polygonal look to it, and I would agree. I think its charm, to your Marble Madness reference, I don't think everyone quite will immediately connect. But I do think that is. I think it's worth pointing out.
I'm not wrong, am I?
It's basically there's a path that you go down, and it's a little wobbly, right? Like the controls are like kind of like skate or die a little bit. Like you're kind of pointing your way down. You can do.
Oh, that's instantly more identifiable than Marble Madness.
us old fogies here are like, okay, remember a game from 1987?
I know, but it's just like it's got that arcade vibe to it.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the thing
totally
that I think is most important. And so like you're coming down the hill, but there are a ton of shortcuts, but you have to be creative, and they're not like. Once you're like, oh, I've got this shortcut, I'm going to totally use this every time. You kind of need the perfect approach. You need to like hit that landing just right, or it's Splat City, right? And I when I first started playing, I was like, I just sat there and kept splatting, trying to make shortcuts and giggling. Is what I did probably for like 10 or 15 minutes. They're like, don't you think the game's great? And I was like, I haven't even made it down the hill yet. I'm convinced this is a shortcut I'm going to take. And I'm laughing every time.
Long-time listeners of the podcast have heard me say before that one of my favorite things in a game is when it can make losing fun. Mm-hmm. And this is a game that makes losing fun in that, like, there's a lot of times that you just like, all right, let's give this a shot. I'm going to make this jump. Oh, that was bad. I just fell into a 500-foot waterfall. And that it can be very satisfying. And it has that sort of Super Meat Boy-esque immediate restart thing.
Yeah.
Where you're just right back at the checkpoint and we're going again.
And there's like, I'm making the number up. There's like 7 or 8 checkpoints down. And like, it's funny, your run is ultimately like 5 minutes, but it takes you 20 minutes to do that 5 minutes kind of thing.
Yeah.
You do get better. I mean, I have runs where if I try to keep it clean, you can get down and like run the whole thing. But that's kind of not the fun of the game. The fun of the game is like finding and trying to hit the shortcuts, because the people that are hitting the like top end times, you're like,
How is
that's
that
impossible,
possible?
right? That's impossible. I don't know how that person's doing that. That's insane.
Like I finished with a time of 5 minutes and 30 seconds. The best time is 55 seconds. Like, you know, like crazy stuff like that. And then you start to get better at it, and you start to see, oh yeah, like clearly they found that at the start of the trail, you go the other way, right? And if you can make that jump and then you slide down that mountain, you get to the first checkpoint in 5 seconds, right? Whereas otherwise you've taken this trail and it takes you like 40 seconds.
Yeah, there's
to
a
get there.
wandering. The path is wandering,
Yes.
right? The intended path wanders.
And here's the other thing that's neat about that is that like there's a lot of ways to enjoy the game. The first time you do a trail, it doesn't give you any time restraints or how many crashes you can have. It just says like
Exploration.
get to the bottom of the hill.
Yeah.
And there's something very satisfying in just that component of the game, which is super relaxing and enjoyable in the way that like when I've gone mountain biking, that's what it's like. You're just hearing like there's a coyote out in the distance. There's some birds flying by. The wind is sort of rustling through the pine trees. There's almost no music. It's all just sort of natural ambient sound and the sound of your bike against the gravel and the wood and the bridges. And that's very satisfying in its own right. And then there's this other component of the game that is the skill-based, I'm going to really try now. I'm going to try to get down and not ever wreck. Or I'm going to try and get down in 2 minutes. And that's how you're sort of slowly progressing to the additional mountains and trails and bikes and things like that.
Yeah, I've definitely added this game to like, I keep on my PC, I keep a selection of just like arcadey kind of games that I can sit down and play for 5 or 10 minutes and just like screw around. And I've added this game to my rotation in that regard of like, it's fun to be like, oh, I got to get away from all this stuff. I just want to play something fun and see how I'm going to do. And I've been playing the game that way and really enjoying it. What do you think? What I know you haven't scored it yet, but what are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm kind of hovering in mid 8s right now. I mean, whoever hears this is going to be like, Matt, you already scored this, but I haven't as of this recording. And I'll tell you the one thing that has kind of held me back a little bit about it. There's a lot of things I love about the game. I recommend it wholeheartedly to anybody who wants that kind of like interesting arcade experience that is both simultaneously really relaxing, but also really skill-based, interesting play. It does have some things about the structure of the ongoing game that bug me a little bit, the most significant of which is that their unlock structure hides some of the potential play styles behind a very, very severe wall of difficulty.
Oh, yeah.
So you have there's a bunch of bikes that you can unlock.
And each one of these sort of represents a different thing, right? Like, this is jumping, that's speed, or
this,
that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so each bike is effectively like, I think if it was an RPG, like we were talking about these other games, it'd be a class, right? Yeah. And it's really fun to explore those different classes, those different bikes, and approach each trail in a different way. So if you get the jump bike, all of a sudden you're like, oh man, on that speed bike I had before, I could never make this jump. I tried it 100 times and I always crashed. And all of a sudden you're on your jump bike, it's no problem.
So what's the problem?
Okay, so the problem is that these don't unlock while you're really playing through the game. They all unlock quite late in the cycle. And I think that's a problem. I think in a game like this, you want to have those different play styles a little bit earlier in order to experiment and try out different things on a given trail. And instead, you're expected to really, really master a lot of the game first, and then you get all these other play styles.
So they almost become more like post-game options rather
I think
than...
that's it, yeah.
I think so. And I think that was a conscious decision. There's a lot of things about this game that do feel very much like conscious designer decisions. And it's just, for me, I don't agree with that decision. I think a lot of what's fun in the game is that experience of variety. And because you're stuck with kind of the early bikes for so long, I think a lot of people will play all they're going to play of the game and then never get to see some of that stuff. And that's too bad. That said, there's so much there that's fun that it's not like that's going to pull it down into some terrible score.
Mm-hmm.
It's just something that kind of bugs me.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those games that I sit down to play it, I don't think to myself, when am I going to beat this?
Yeah. Yeah,
Right?
it's not bad.
I'm just like, cool.
New trail.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Like I wasn't even really thinking about that, and then you have it.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I do think it is nice in that kind of just that player building up their own experiences to have those new tools be introduced, so you can kind of like explore it a little bit more. It is a shame that it's all just post game mastery kind of tools. That is unfortunate. But if this was the old days, there'd be a code.
Yeah.
Right? Use my game genie, get that thing unlocked early, and
Yeah.
use that jump bike right away.
Yeah, at least you're not paying for them, though.
Yeah,
at
that's
least
true.
it's not $5 for the jump bike.
Yet.
This
Nah.
is a true enough. This is a very pure game. Speaking to Andy's where it sits on Andy's hard drive, I would tend to agree with that. This is a thing that you would put in maybe even as a side game to whatever your big, violent, loud action fighting or shooting game is that you're currently in the middle of. You could play that and then pop into this for like 20 minutes.
So this
do a
isn't
couple
replacing
trails.
this isn't replacing Destiny 2 on your
No.
lineup. Here.
No, I don't think so. But it's a nice accompaniment to it.
Okay.
After we lose, in multiplayer, you're like, I need a win.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go bike down.
I'm
the
going to
mountain.
go back down the mountain,
Yeah.
take out some of my aggressions. So, all right. Well, thank you all. That's fun. It's a lot of interesting games, and I love to see, that there's so much variety out there in games, and certainly this is quite the spread that we
Yeah.
went through here. So next up for us, in the next segment, we are going to do reader mail, listener mail. I don't even know what to say because I'm a long-term Time magazine nerd, so I'm going to get that wrong.
We're gonna answer questions that you asked us in emails.
That's what we're gonna do.
Yes, yes. Emails. We are going to start with a question from Jack from Pretoria, South Africa.
Long way away.
That is very far away. So shout out to our listeners all over the world. Do you guys think the reception of The Outer Worlds would have been different if Bethesda had successfully pulled off Fallout 76? I don't think there would be such an appetite for this kind of game if Fallout 76 was a hit. In my opinion, The Outer Worlds has a few rough edges, but I'm having fun nonetheless. But people keep saying it's the game Fallout 76 should have been. So, discuss. That is an interesting point.
I thought it was interesting as the person who reviewed The Outer Worlds for us. I can speak to it on an individual level in that I did not play Fallout 76, so I can't really personally. I'm not like, oh, I played Fallout 76 and it sucks, but Outer Worlds is what I wanted it to be. Yeah. So it didn't affect me on a personal level, but I think.
But I think when you read about, I think his point being that when we all heard about Fallout 76, we're like, oh, this is going to be the next level of what Fallout's going to be, and take all the things I loved about Fallout 3 or Fallout 4 and move them
Were
forward.
we like that?
I think when I first heard the name, until they started to describe it a little more.
It was exciting that they were going to West Virginia.
Yeah,
And then all of a sudden,
I'm going way back here,
yeah.
right? I think that's where it started.
First minutes.
The first minutes, it was
Yeah.
exciting, and then they started explaining. You're like, this is challenging, right? It's a different type of game, and I do think that it's funny because gamers want something different, right? We're always like, do something different, and then when someone does something different, it's like, you did something different.
We want the same.
We want the same, right? And I think there's something to be said for having familiarity, right? Things that you're familiar with and you want especially out of a franchise like that. And it's always a little dangerous when you really break from the franchise like that, especially when it's not I think Nintendo does a good job of it. We talked about it a little bit earlier. They always give you the thing you want, but they experiment with Mario Tennis and some other things like that to kind of to gap those things into other worlds. But Bethesda certainly, I think, left a lot of fans wanting with Fallout 76. So do you think it affected the desire or the enthusiasm for the Outer World?
I think probably some. There were a lot of people who spoke of, when we did the cover story about it. I think there were a lot of people who were who recognized very quickly its kinship
Yes.
with the Fallout brand, both because of who was creating it and some of the tone stuff that they were going for. And they saw in it the thing that they wanted this other game to be. Now, I don't know how profoundly it has affected sales. I kind of think if Fallout 76 had been a big hit, and then a year later, a new franchise hit that was kind of like Fallout, wouldn't that also do really well?
I think so.
Could
I
it-
would agree.
Yeah, it could be helped by the success of Fallout 76 also.
So I don't know that it profoundly affects sales, but I think it does speak about something we talk about a lot in this office, which is that like there's a drive towards from publishers, I think especially, there's a drive towards wanting multiplayer engagement and wanting living games that live forever. And on the gamer side of the equation, while there are certainly games that have found success in that regard, I think there is still a deep hunger for single player games, right? And this particular set of two games speaks strongly to that appetite, right?
Yes,
That
yeah.
like Fallout 76 did a lot of things that kind of upset a lot of people, and Outer Worlds is in many ways, I think you could say, is a less ambitious game in some regards, at least for what it's trying to do.
Yeah.
But I think it's met with a much more enthusiastic reaction from the bulk of gamers because they want more games like the ones that they used to play.
I think you're right. Number one, it executed on an idea that they wanted, and it executed on that idea very well. It's very well written, gameplay solid. There's so many check marks done on the Outer Worlds that I think. And by the way, if there was a world where Fallout 5 and the Outer Worlds 2 came out within the same year, I think they both could be successful.
Yeah,
By the way, I don't
so
think
too.
this is an either or world, but I definitely think. I mean, them announcing that Fallout First Pass the same day that all the reviews came out for Outer Worlds was like, what are you thinking right now? And did you hear that they're like assassinating people that have the icon to have paid for the servers? I mean, it's like, it's unfortunate that the backlash has been the way it has been. Bethesda has definitely made a lot of great games over the years, but they have definitely had a run lately where it seems like they're a little off their game, let's say. But I'm excited, and I'm going to point this out for this game, particularly for Outer Worlds, to speak a little bit. Obsidian has been a great company for a long time, and I am thrilled that they have a hit. I mean, it's not just that they became a part of Microsoft recently, but they have a hit, and I think they deserve it. And it was easy to see they had done a lot of great PC RPGs, but without going to this kind of like view and setup that I think brought it to more people. This was the game changer for them, and I think really brought up their game. And I'd like to point out too, in this year, we also got Remedy with their big hit with Control. So I had two companies that I really adored and have always appreciated their work have what I consider to be breakout hits, and I think that's a feel-good story, and I'm really excited about it. Just to point that out.
Coincidentally, also both games that were on our covers.
Yeah. I mean, hey, I'd like to think I have good taste, right? And we have good taste that we try to find great games.
Exactly.
I admit we screw up every once in a while. I know someone right now in the comments is like, "But Andy, you did on the cover," and that's fine. We know we make mistakes, but we do try to find the best games we can, and we try to see what we can. And I will tell you this. We were slow on Control because I had a lot of questions about it, and we waited till the very end. I'm glad we did, because when I finally did, like when I played it last May, I was like, this thing is money. I love where this is going. They're nailing everything. This is perfect. Outer Worlds, I mean, we were just in love with it right from the very beginning.
Yeah.
It was an easy sell, and I think it's been an easy sell to everybody out there as well. But thanks for bringing that up, Joe. All right. And Kim, do you have a comment on that? Let's make sure you get your Outer Worlds in there.
No, I was actually just talking with my friends this morning about it, just saying like that style of game is just what I want to play, and I haven't had it in a long time, and just to be able to finally step into a game like that has been. I mean, I've been going to bed late every night because I've been playing this game. I've been like, I'm just going to do like a quest or two. I'm never going to do just a quest or two. I should know that by now, but it is nice. And I think a lot of things like, the BioWare comparisons too. Well, it's been a while since we've had a great BioWare game as well. So we're just kind of sitting in that spot of like, there's a hunger for this type of style. And I'm glad it's there and I have it and I can play it. And it's really good execution.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think... I mean, execution is difficult, but I don't think the formula is like hidden, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that action RPG with great depth and an interesting world. I mean, I know those are all hard things to do. By the way, I'd like to not
Done and done.
But what you need to do
but
is
what
clear.
you need to do is clear,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I think they really focused on that to make sure that they hit
Good
those
writing,
things.
good solid implementation.
And also,
Yeah.
because I'm going to go off on a little bit of tangent here, we're going to make this question last the entire segment, which is that my interesting question is that to I think this point of like when you have so many persistent world games, right? Is that a finite space? Meaning that like, I know I'm trying to play Destiny and WoW right now and all these other games like, and like as we add more games and as more companies try to go out and publishers try to go out and make more persistent world games, do some of them get kicked to the curb because we don't have enough time, because there's not enough like focus? Can all these games be full-time games as service? You know what I mean? And I'm talking a lot of games. I mean, like, if you play Call of Duty multiplayer, you play Call of Duty multiplayer. If you're a League of Legends person, Dota, I mean, any of the specific esports fall in that
The
same
hobby
like
games.
the hobby games.
Yeah.
Like, is that a finite number? Is there a number that we can hit that there can be no more?
I think so. But I think that's been true for some games for a while. I mean, you remember the way things were with MMOs in the years after WoW first released. I mean, there were eventually, not right away, but eventually there were some very good MMOs that released that just
Died on the vine.
the vine because by that point, WoW had, like in terms of things that were like WoW but weren't WoW, WoW had such a big audience and it had done so much to build out its universe that trying to compete with it, even if you release something that was pretty good, was almost impossible. And I think we're seeing that now with a lot of different games that are trying some variation of being living games. That even when they're good, if there's art, if it's gonna require somebody to we're gonna compete with Destiny, that means you need to pull somebody off of Destiny.
Gotcha.
And that's, I think, really hard.
Difficult. Yeah.
For me though, I think that the number might be bigger than you think, because of course there are a limited number of people on Earth and you know, people hours you can put into a thing. But I think about for someone like me who I generally steer clear of those persistent world things.
Yeah.
But and now this didn't end up happening, but I was like, when Anthem came out earlier this year, I was like, this might be the one.
Yeah.
This might be the one persistent world game that pulls me in. So for every new game like that comes out, there is an opportunity to bring in people that weren't playing any of them before. You know,
Sure.
I still don't play them, but
well, you guys have a lot of RPGs to play, and they're long, right? They are their own persistent worlds. But I think that's important that please keep making first person and single player games out there. We love them. All right. Let's go to the next question. From Logan in Houston, Texas. Hey, Andy. Actually, this is to me, which is crazy, right? Now that he's gone, what was Ben's most insane video game opinion in your mind? And I believe that he is a reference to Ben Hansen?
I think his name was Hansen.
Hansen?
Yeah.
I think that's how it's
something,
pronounced.
I think something. I'm not entirely sure who they're referencing here. No, just kidding.
Yeah.
But I know Joe is his hands. If
Yeah.
he's like I am ready for this
I'm
one.
tipping my hand, and people who've listened to the podcast for a while maybe even know that I think we even brought it up on a recent episode. Like, Hansen's most ridiculous video game opinion is that the scene in Red Dead Redemption 2 when everyone's building the house, he thinks that's bad. He thinks that does not have a place in that game. And for me, it was one of my top 5 moments in that whole expansive experience.
Did he hate the camps too?
I don't know.
I mean, it's kind of the same thing, right? Isn't it? I mean, I feel like it's the same general get together with the other characters in this game and experience things.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I mean, it's specifically that sort of montage sequence when everyone's sort of banging and building up the house and sawing, and I mean, it's got a little bit of a goofiness to it, but also I think that's a game that needs some levity from time to time.
Yeah.
And I thought that was just a great sequence, and he just thought it had no place in that game, and he was very wrong about that. I'm glad he's not hosting anymore.
It's just cruel, Joe. I'll tell you, as a person who has to host now, I wish he was hosting still. And so you have a story as well?
Well, mine is not quite so critical of Ben, I suppose, or calling him out for being a terrible host or something. But well, the thing that was so striking to me over the last several years with Hansen is that he got super into board games, which was very exciting to me. I love it when new people get really excited about board games.
Miller is also
Side
very
note,
into
yes,
board games.
Miller loves board games, if anyone doesn't know. Yeah.
Top of the table.
Yeah. And the thing about Ben, though, is that he had one board game. He plays this game called Avalon. And notice I say plays, not played. He still plays Avalon all the time, and he loves this game. Now, Avalon is a very good game. I like it. It's sort of like a social deduction, hidden traitor kind of thing where everybody's kind of lying to each other at the table, and you're trying to figure out who's who. But he would play this game all the time. And exclusively. And so I would go and I would talk to him, and everything like I was being like, hey, man, I think you'd really like this other game. It's really interesting. I think you'd have fun with your friends. And he'd be like, yeah, well, how much is it like Avalon? And I don't know. He has, by the way, I will point out, started playing some other games, which I'm really excited about.
But yeah, the insane opinion there is just Avalon is the only board game worth playing for several years.
Yes.
Now, I think in our kind of pre-production meeting, we had those. They're really in-depth.
Hours and hours.
Hours. I think Kim and I didn't have anything off the top of our heads that I thought of. Unless, did something come to mind for you, Kim?
Not really. I was saying this. Hansen has said a lot of outrageous things over the years, and I feel like I just have blocked them out at this point. Like, because I know they're there, and I know there's times that I've been like, I can't believe he just said that, or like really bold claims that, like, bless his heart for being able to just be very passionate and, you know, say that to all of our listeners and everything.
I would say that we pride ourselves at Game Informer on
respecting opinions, by the way.
And letting people, everybody kind of comes to the table with their own opinions. And you know what? Like, everything's subjective, right? Like, that's a big tenet of how we work as an office. Yeah. It's just that Hansen would often come to the table with a set of opinions that were very different from what most of us felt.
Yeah, but I always respected his enthusiasm.
Yeah, always 100%. Yeah, and that's the thing is we definitely respect opinions, and we're making fun of him here a little bit here just because it's fun to lean into with his first week away. But it's all in good fun, you know. And I do. I mean, I think that's the thing too. It's one of the challenging things about I think games journalism, talk about games, is trying to understand other people's perspectives on games and what's entertainment and what has value to them. And you know, it's easy to say, like, I mean, I think to some degree, like, man, this new really great AAA game that they spent, you know, $200 million on is great, right? It is trying to find those other things that's interesting. So I digress a little bit, but it was fun to poke holes. Hi, Ben. So let's move on. So let's see. Let's dig around here a little bit. I think I like this one too. What's one feature of a popular game that doesn't get talked about enough? This is from James Smith in the UK. For me, it's the animal ecosystem in Red Dead 2. Animals have proper habits in that game. Ravens and coyotes will feed on the carcasses of animals you kill, and opossums will play dead if you try to kill them. It's incredible. I spent 2 hours just sitting next to a river bird watching, and it was fun. And that is definitely, a lot of people had that experience with Red Dead, that they were like, oh, I gotta play the game. I just was hunting and like hanging out in the world. And I think, by the way, your example, Rockstar is the best world builders in the game, right?
Pretty much. Yeah.
I think up there.
I mean, like, I think that's who everyone tries to compete with. So, but can you think of a feature that's not talked about in a popular game?
The big one for me is maybe not talked about as much because it got added post-release, but in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, they have an option where you can make any piece of armor you're wearing look like any other piece. So it's sort of that transmog kind of thing, which a lot of games do. But I think that in that game, it's just particularly important because I remember on my first run through it, you get some gear that does not look great. But then as the game goes on, you start getting these like cool sets, and they might not augment your particular play style.
Yeah.
But as I continue playing in the post game and the DLC and stuff in that, I really loved the opportunity to like I would go out and hunt down specific pieces of gear, not because I needed their stats, but because it's like because I was interested in creating a sort of like a gear set with that visual component.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I want a sun hat. I'm going to go find the legendary sun hat so I can walk around just looking like a low-level farmer when in fact I'm just the biggest badass in all of ancient Greece here.
I mean, playing dress up in games is super fun.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Yeah.
that's the lesson there, right? Which,
Yeah.
and games that give you the freedom to look the way that you want to look can go a really long way, for me anyway, of just making me want to I want to play some more of that because I like the way that I've made my character look.
I mean, customization is literally how they're making money, and microtransactions and a lot. I mean, that's how powerful it is. How much of a draw it is for us as gamers, and you know, it's that personality that you can show through your choices and what your character looks like, and super important, right? And so I agree. That is always one of the things.
And in AC Odyssey, it's a free update.
Yeah.
It's just free. It's in there.
Well, I meant just like the, you know,
I
the
know,
battle
I know.
passes and everything like that.
Yeah.
That you unlock certain things that way. And I by the way, battle passes, the new loot boxes thing is a thing I'm into. Like that's a thing I don't mind paying for myself.
Better than loot boxes.
Better
at
than
the
loot
very
boxes.
least.
You know what's coming down the pipe.
Yeah.
You just have to play a lot to unlock some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Anybody else, Kim?
It's kind of similar to what he said, just on like that emergent narrative of different things that will happen in the world and the big open worlds as you're going through them. Witcher 3 did it really well. Obviously, Rockstar with Red Dead Redemption. I just sometimes like to just sit and watch as like there's like a fight going on that you didn't expect,
Yeah.
or the wildlife, interacting with each other. It's kind of fun to just see how those different stories build around the world as you're in them.
Does that stuff happen in Monster Hunter?
Oh yeah, Monster Hunter. Well, Monster Hunter, the turf wars drive me nuts, so I don't want to I don't
okay, not
want
a
to
good example.
but that stuff like doesn't feel like it doesn't get talked about. I feel like it does get praised quite a bit, but
okay.
it is just fun to see that stuff happen as you're just like, all right, this is not what I was expecting, but as I'm walking, going from this city to this city, it's cool that these random things are happening in the world before me. I mean, I think that's too, like, if you go back to, again, another thing that got super praised, so I'm not saying it's underrated, but like the Nemesis system of kind of seeing that come back at you, through the world, or even seeing how that all shook out, so.
And you brought up something that I kind of forgotten about, but one of my favorite things in games that is often forgotten is I love, and Witcher is a great example of this, I love big giant quest lines that are like just sitting under some tree. That's one of my I always feel like really great games really nail that, where there's like a great main story, but you just stumble on something weird. I feel Destiny's one of those things that attracts me. But you're like, what are we doing down here? Why is that globe spinning? And then it unlocks this whole crazy story, this rabbit hole that you fall down. And so I really love it when those games have those rabbit holes that you can fall down into, and they're deep. They're not just like, oh, you found this one thing. I love it when they really have depth to them. Those are some of my favorite moments in games.
Yeah, I think Witcher is sort of the undisputed top of the heap in terms of making side quest content meaningful.
Yeah, what I love about that is Witcher is something very, seemingly innocuous. Like some guy will come up to you and just be like, ask you a question, and you answer and whatever, and you forget about it. And then all of a sudden, like
back.
20, 30 minutes later, it somehow surfaces and you're like, oh man, I didn't know that was going to have anything. And I just love it because it takes you by surprise and you totally just forgot about it. It even happened. And then you're like, oh, this really did, impact, have some meaning in this world.
Yep.
And one last shout out, UX, the UX designers and all the great games I think have got great design as far as those features go, and that's always one of those. I think it's forgotten in great games. Great games always have great menu systems and the way that you navigate them, and that's a hard thing to do in games and never talked about.
What are some of your favorites recently then?
I mean, I think Destiny definitely was one of those ones that changed a lot of things, especially for console, and a way to like navigate a lot of things.
People have copied that. Sense.
Yeah, I think it's come along. I mean, I think there's ones that get super complex, but I mean, I think it's one of those things too. It's hard to remember the ones I love, but it's easy to pick out the ones I hate.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's one of those things. That's why you talk about something that's in a popular game that doesn't get talked about. UI, user interface, is one of those things that in the great games is never talked about, but almost, I feel like, hand in hand in really great games, it is nailed.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
When
Super
it's
important.
invisible, that's probably because it's really good.
That's because it's really good. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree. So, That's my throw in on that. So, all right, let's go on. Jennifer from Florida asks, what is the one video game that has impacted your life the most and still reminisce about often?
Ooh.
It's deep. It's deep, baby.
I wonder about, there's certain games like Super Mario Brothers. I remember getting Super Mario Brothers, and like I had my brother and I had an Atari before that I would play some games on. But like that Christmas morning, running along with Mario, I wonder if like the whole course of my life would have been different if I hadn't had that.
Whoa, that's impactful.
I mean, for me, right? Because I work in games and I write about games and stuff like that. Because that moment was like, man, this is so exciting. It's so fun. And that was, you know, it's not like Super Mario Brothers is like my favorite game ever or anything like that now. But at the time, it was so exciting to have that on my TV and playing it. And it led to so many other games that I got excited about.
Exactly.
That I wonder if I hadn't gotten that Nintendo in 1987 or whatever from my mom for Christmas. I don't know. Like,
so Atari didn't do it for you. This was the moment. This is when you said.
So.
This is when you said. This is for me.
I think so. I mean, there's some others, like I think Final Fantasy was really big because before that I was a D&D kid, and the idea of like, oh, I can like on my home console I can play like a D&D game. That was a big one.
Are you talking like 6, 3?
No, like the original.
Oh,
like
the original.
Final
Final Fantasy 1. Gotcha.
FF7 was another big one because that made me get a PlayStation.
I think about this in sort of like two ways, sort of, because like in the terms that Miller's talking about, like impacted my gaming life in a big way was like Final Fantasy 4/2 on Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
It's the one with, you know, Cecil and Kane and those guys. Like I remember having a very clear realization or moment that was like, oh, games can be like books. Games can just be about telling a story.
Yeah.
And even though, you know, like that's one of my favorite Final Fantasy games partially for that reason, is that I felt like it really opened my eyes to a sort of like world of narrative possibility in gaming. But I think back to sort of like an external impact for games too would be one for me is Metal Gear Solid 2. Because I remember that's one that came out when Miller and I were seniors in college, and that was one of the first games that like I remember he and I bonding over talking about.
Joe played that game so much.
Yeah.
Like at that time in our lives, I was like a guy who played, like I played a lot of games, but I played pretty broadly. And Joe was a deep player in that, like, he had a couple games, but man, did he know those games. I mean, how many times did you play through that game? Can you even
Oh, I can't even
guess?
count. I mean, easily
Dozens.
Easily 5 or 6. Yeah.
Oh. It's way more than 5 or 6.
I like that he's laughing at your 5 or 6. Like
That's ridiculous. Like it's only 5 or 6.
And Miller and I have another good friend of ours from college who I also like talked about, like he was also a big MGS2 fan. So we ended up talking about that and building, you know, it's like, it wasn't the sole pillar of our friendship or anything, but it was one of those sort of like things in the mix early on that like, I feel like my familiarity with that game brought me closer to some people who even
That's
today,
awesome.
like I am still thankful for their friendships.
That's
So,
awesome. That's really great. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Kim?
I feel like a broken record because I've told this story before, but I think there's that moment when you kind of decide like what type of genre fan you're going to be. And so
I have no idea what your answer's going to be.
And so growing up, like we knew I was like trying to play RPGs before I could read type of thing. And, you know, as I finally got to that point where I could understand what's going on the screen, my grandpa, when he retired, he wanted to keep his mind going. So he would just go from RPG to RPG. So I think I would watch him play. And we both realized at one point, I think we were sitting down talking, we were playing Secret of Mana at the same time. And so that game became just a really important thing that we would discuss between us. And that was a game, too, for me, was a lot of firsts. I think that was the first game that I actually got, like, emotional with a scene that was playing out when he gets banished from the village. And actually what ended up happening was As we were in the middle of playing that, my grandpa passed away, so I took his copy and I finished his save so he could have finished the game.
By the way, you can tell that story every time. By the way, it's a great story.
I was like, am I going to be
Touching,
able
yeah.
to say, sometimes I'm like, am I going to be able to say this without getting like teary-eyed on it? But like it really did impact the type of games I played. And I feel like from that, like going on, I was always on that RPG path, but I feel like that Super Nintendo era and that moment in particular is like, I'm going to be a lifelong RPG fan. Like these games just are super meaningful to me, and I'll always have that connection kind of with my grandpa through them. So.
And have you written? I feel like you've written that story down on our site somewhere.
Yeah, it is. It's like finishing Secret of Mana and tribute to one cool grandpa, because I talked about kind of how that whole thing happened. And, you know, I've like I said, I've talked about this a few times on and off, but that is really the point in time where I can like identify like really where my RPG love just grew and was going to keep going.
That's awesome. Yeah. So a person I have not been asking questions this whole thing is Leo. Can I get a Leo out there?
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey, Leo.
Oh, hey, Leo.
How are you doing? I'm sorry, I'm new to this, so I keep forgetting I need to include the man behind the scenes who makes everything happen.
The Wizard of Oz.
That's
you might
correct.
say.
So I would love to hear for you, Leo. Do you have a game that impacted your life that you reminisce about?
Hey, all of them.
Boo! Fantastic.
Leo's clapping for himself.
Yes. All right.
Yeah, that's tough. I would say Rainbow Six Siege being my main game, I've had a lot of strong friendships form out of that. But
So just in recent years, huh?
Yeah, but going back a bit before that, Overwatch. That was
yeah,
something where it
sure.
was like I had kind of these friends in the wings, you know, mutual followers on Twitter. And it was like, let's get together to play Overwatch. And then from there, we joined the same Discord, and then people I talk to every single night now. Like some of my best friends came out of that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I mean, we were talking earlier about living games, and that sometimes it's got some downsides to the whole living games. But I will echo Leo in that you like you find one of those hobby games and you make friends.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
like
100%.
if you have a game that you're going back to, even if you're playing it like just a few times a week or something like that, and you go in for an hour, that continuous sense of return when you've got a roster of people that you're gonna, like so-and-so's on, I'll go hop in with them. That sense of continuity over not just a few weeks that you might have with like a smaller game with a discrete endpoint, but instead over months or years. And you know that like, you realize at some point that like, oh man, I did a Destiny raid with this guy in like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And we're still like hanging out and chatting in the evenings. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I knew. I love. For a while it would be like, my wife would ask. She'd go like, "Who are you talking to?" And I'd be like, "I'm talking to my friends in games." Like, do you know this person? You know what I mean? Would be like the line. I'd be like, I mean, yes, I know this person. I mean, have you ever met? Like, no, but I know this person. Like you create a bond and a trust people that you go on these adventures with. Right. And I love when I hear stories about people that are going to like esports events or like BlizzCon, which is coming up this weekend, and they go and they meet people for the first time that they've known for years online. I've had that same experience. It's one of those things that in my answer was definitely some friends of mine who worked at Capcom were like, "You got to play EverQuest, man. Come play EverQuest with us." And I was like, I guess. Right. And like it led to a lot of really fun experiences, and like that was at the early days of like where gaming could go. And for me, a longtime gamer, my whole life, I can't remember a time when I wasn't playing games. Like this was the moment that I said, this is gonna change everything, man. Like the way that people can interact. And so to that point, I mean, I think games are changing the way we interact with people and change the way we make friends.
Yeah.
Right. And it's quite amazing. So I think we did 3 questions. I'm bad at this.
That's fine.
We're interesting conversations, though, hopefully.
I'm going to try to keep this podcast from being 60,000 years long. And I apologize to people that want it to be longer. That means you need to come back. That you need to come back next week. And for the week after that, as we continue to do the show, I'd like to point out, I know I asked people on my Twitter account, hey, give me some feedback. I'd love it if you kept doing that. The real Andy Mack, please let me know. I do want to try to slowly see what I can do to change the show and maybe personalize a little bit more for what for what we represent now. But right now, I'm trying to just make sure we get a show out. So thanks to Leo and everyone who was a guest here. Thank you very much. And we'll do our best to kind of talk about games, talk about what they mean and what they mean to us going forward with the show. Coming up next is I don't know how big of a Call of Duty esports fan you are. I am one. I am actually, it's funny because I don't play that much multiplayer, but I love watching Call of Duty. It's a lot of fun. It's a great sport. Super entertaining. And one of the things that happened in the last couple of years is they have begun to do franchised games and franchise teams. So Minnesota has got a team. They have announced their new name, their new moniker, and their new brand, and the team is forming here in Minnesota, and I want to talk to them about how it came to be, what it's like to be a pro, what it's like to create a team like this, and I think this is going to be a really interesting conversation, so hang around for this next event where we talk Call of Duty esports. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Game Informer Show. In this final segment, I have got the privilege of having members of the new Minnesota Røkkr Call of Duty League team here. And we're going to talk about Call of Duty esports and the team and where they came from. And I'm super excited to have you guys here today. So thank you, first of all, for coming in.
Yeah, I mean, thank you so much for having us out here. The whole office over here, the space and like all the merch and everything you have is absolutely crazy.
Awesome. Well, we're excited. We're excited for you guys. So I'm glad that we could have you guys down here. So to my left, we have Brian St. Baraska.
Yes.
And you are the coach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm the head coach and pretty much general manager at the moment.
All right, that's great. And then to your left, we have Brett Diamond, the COO and you would go by, what's the official name of the company?
So Wise Ventures Esports is the parent company of
Gotcha.
Minnesota Røkkr. Now that we actually have a name announced as of yesterday, we actually go by Minnesota Røkkr.
Excellent.
But Wise Ventures Esports is still a thing.
Yeah, excellent. And then at the end, we have Ashley Midnight Glassell.
Hi, yes, good to be here. And just like Brian said, it's awesome to be here. This is a bucket list thing that I didn't know was on my bucket list, but now it's been checked.
So much gaming history in one place.
Yeah.
So I gotta throw you something. I read the Optic Gaming book, so I have.
Oh, awesome.
It was really fun to read your chapter there. So it was really great. So it's great having you here as well.
Oh, thanks so much for that. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
That book will go down in history for so many different reasons. But no, yeah, it's great that you've kind of followed the journey so far.
Certainly. So Call of Duty, so people that don't know, this is the first year that they've changed from kind of open, like any team can kind of come to a thing, to a franchised experience. So that means there's now 12 teams in the league. You've slowly been announcing every team along the way. And I'd like to say, I never thought in a million years that Minnesota would be on the list. And I got to tell you, I screamed a little bit when I saw the announcement that Minnesota was going to be a part of this. So can you tell me a little bit about that journey to Minnesota getting a Call of Duty team?
Yeah, so we can all kind of bring our unique perspectives to it. And Ashley has a great story from when she heard the news as well. But I came on board with the organization in early May, and that was when they were in the final stages of the discussions with Activision to secure the franchise slot. The discussions that the Will family and the ownership group had with Activision went back, almost a year prior to that. Of discussing different opportunities. And, the Will family had spent a lot of time looking at the esports space and looking for the right time to get involved. And, as a group, they were never saying we have to be the first ones in. Wanted to find the right opportunity, the right game, the right moment, and they felt like they found that with the new Call of Duty League. So we announced the formation of it on July 1st. So that would have been that date. That, and it was interesting. We managed to keep it quiet. We were one of the few teams that never leaked. And so it turned a lot of heads that Minnesota was one of the new teams, and we feel like that we're in a unique position coming into this market where there's a lot of passion for esports, there's a lot of passion for Call of Duty, but there hasn't been a major esports event in this market for whatever reason.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're excited to have the opportunity to bring it here for the first time.
And so basically, once you guys kind of started off, what was the process of like selecting a name, selecting a team? I mean, there's a lot that goes behind. Like, it's one thing to secure the franchise, which, by the way, I should point out, they also own the Vikings, just for anyone else. So it's part of that group. So, but what are the next steps? I mean, like, you come in, you're like, I really like Call of Duty. How do you build a team? How do you build a franchise? What are the next steps in this process?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start out just from having been there on day one, but obviously want Coach and Ashley to talk about it as well. But we started with looking at what our plans were and what our process of selecting a name really from early May on, as we started to finalize things to actually secure the slot in the league itself. And from naming was one of the first things on the agenda. And one of the challenges I think that whether it's our team or any team in the new league is that you don't have. So if you're an expansion team in a traditional sports league, you have literally years to go through some of these things that the teams in this league are doing in 6 months, 9 months. And one of those things is naming your team, and you go through you go through the trademark process, and that's an exhausting process.
Yes,
and there were a number of names that we looked at that we couldn't even go after because they, either they weren't available or, now I'm kind of nerding out on the legal stuff. So hopefully this is,
it's even finding the social channel, right? Is tough.
But so we spent a lot of time looking at a couple themes. One, we wanted something that would resonate with this region, that would have some kind of tie to the culture. Two, we like the idea of having a subtle tie to the Vikings. You mentioned the common ownership in the Will family, but we didn't want it to be, something that was just going to hit people over the head, right? And so we spent a lot of time looking at northern themes, at themes around northern lights, things of that nature, and then we started going down a path of Norse mythology, and ultimately it led us to Røkkr, which the meaning of it translates as twilight in Old Norse languages. And we like to say it's not about the word twilight, it's that moment between day and night when the last bit of light fades beyond the horizon. And it ties in with the mythology around Ragnarok, which is the end of the world in Norse mythology. That actual word is Røkkr, which translates as twilight of the gods.
So basically, it's what you scream as you crush your enemies at the end of the match.
I like
essentially,
that.
Basically,
We might have to do that.
So, I kind of this went down this path, which I'm super excited about, giving like cities and like having names that are going to live longer, in each perspective part of the league. So it's really exciting that the Røkkrs are here. But like, I think I missed the draft. How are players selected? Is there a salary cap? How big is the team? Do you have alternates? What is the selection process? Because I don't think you have a full team yet, correct?
No, we do. We have our full roster.
You do have your full roster.
I mean, there wasn't like a draft selection in terms of putting together a roster. I mean, the players and everything kind of formed groups within themselves that like players they wanted to play with. So they kind of pitched themselves as like package deals to a lot of different franchises, and we kind of started with a core 3 group of players, and we kind of rounded out our roster with like another 2 who were pretty much out in like the free agency field, and then we have 2 substitutes as well.
So how do they keep the field even? I mean, is that just like whoever you can go get, can go get?
Yeah, it's honestly how it is.
It's just free for all?
Yeah, it's honestly a free for all. I think it would have been cool if they went like with the draft format. It would have been really interesting to see the rosters, in that regard. But I think a lot of the rosters that formed were based on like friendships and comfort between the players.
Yeah, I mean, because every time I was like, oh, those guys are going there, these guys are going there, and so that's really interesting that's the way it went down. So you have a team as coach. What do you in a game? Let's say a match is coming. How can you talk to the players while they're playing?
Not while they're playing. In some esports, you're allowed to be on stage and like talk in the match. But with Call of Duty, there was like rules changed a few years back. So coaches aren't allowed on stage at all, like during the match anymore. Like I can talk to players in between the games, before the game and after the game, but not during any of the maps as they're being played.
So when you say before the game, is that actually after all the rounds that are played?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, like before their match, before they get on stage, like, and they can even be like on stage, but before like the game starts up, I can throw on a headset, talk to them real quick, and kind of just iron out some things before our match, depending on who we're playing.
I mean, obviously, when everyone's doing scrims and everything like that and practicing up, but like, what's a do you give them like, is it a speech? Is it like a rah-rah speech beforehand? Like go in there, like we got to kill, like what's a coach tell the team before they head out?
It's usually not like a really like crazy like hype up, get in there speech. I mean, Call of Duty and like most esport games rely like a lot on confidence, especially like on the shooter FPS side of things. If you're being confident in your plays and you're feeling confident about yourself, you're generally going to be playing better. So it's kind of just, hyping the players up a little bit, letting them like know that they are the best and they are the better team, and kind of just, getting them in the right headspace before the match.
So, one of the things that's coming is that in Minneapolis in January, I'm going to make sure I get my dates right here, 24th through 26th.
Yep.
Yes.
The season is going to open here in Minneapolis, which is extending, and all 12 teams will be here at the Armory, which is just down the road. So, did you guys play any role in convincing them to come here? How did this come to be? I'm excited that we have a major event here in Minneapolis.
Yeah, I mean, it was something that back to the start of the process to secure the team, our ownership group was very passionate about trying to host that first event, and I'm not going to lie, it took a little convincing to get them to bring it here. But we're incredibly excited to be able to kick off this league, our team, with an event of that nature. The Armory is an amazing venue, and just to put ourselves and put our team in this community on the map with the start of the new league like this is really exciting.
So I think what we need to do, though, is we need to do it outside to give us that north
We'll just have a little bit of
advantage, right?
in that case. I think we'll be used to the weather. The other teams not so much.
Yeah,
They're all living in
exactly.
like hot, exotic places.
Yeah, take the roof off. Let's do it. Let's make it. Let's take an advantage here of being, because January 24th is going to be cold up here. So they're
Yeah,
coming.
That's the thick of winter, man.
Yeah, I mean, I hope these teams stock up on their hand warmers.
So that's really exciting that first round is here. So when you select your team, like, so you guys, you two, I assume, are spending a lot of time, like when you spent time looking to like who you wanted to bring on board and what you want to do, because you obviously you have a ton of experience with Call of Duty. You've been playing Call of Duty
for like 10 years.
Yeah.
Basically, like, I've been playing the game for 10 years, been in the content creation space for 10 years, been in esports and competitive Call of Duty for 10 years, and to have all of the steps I've taken to get to this point kind of culminate. I just moved back home from Texas, where I was working with Optic, and to move back home where I've lived my whole life before that. To hear the announcement of the team was amazing. To feel the opportunity that was ahead for both the team and I, and how we could collaborate, I was just so excited. And instantly, I think the first phone call with Brett and on, we've just had great chemistry. I feel great, ideas of where we want to push this thing, what we want to do. I'm very content minded, so I'm super interested in keeping people super interested in the team, right? Making sure that we're putting out great content that connects the players, the team, the fans, and everything. And then just seeing all the parts of the team come together. So I've got like that content mind. Brett has, brings that traditional sports experience. And then we got Brian, coach, we got the players, we got the coach. Just seeing all those things finally come together and just having the branding revealed was super exciting. So from day one, it's just been a crazy journey, and I've loved every second of it.
Yeah, I think that's the most interesting thing. It's just such for a sport that's been around for a while, it's great to kind of get that restart. I know it kind of upset a bit of the fans, you know what I mean? Like it's like anything. We always joke, whenever there's a change, everyone's going to hate it because it's just change, right? And change is always kind of a negative take at the beginning, but in the long term, you tend to see the benefits of that change. So, I mean, how do you feel about the way that this is going to be presented? I mean, can you give us any hints as to how like what we're going to see as far as ways that this is going to go to reach further than Call of Duty's been in the past?
Yeah, I think a couple things. For one, for us as a new organization in a new city that hasn't had major esports events, it puts us in a unique position of being able to truly build it up from scratch. For fans in this market, whether you're a Call of Duty fan or an esports fan or someone that it may or may not be on your radar, there haven't been major esports events in this market. That reset that you're talking about, I think it's a little bit less controversial among fans here.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if you're a fan, and we've said this, in other contexts or in appearances we've done. If somebody's a fan of one of the old CWL teams that's making the transition, we're not expecting them to give up their loyalties, right? Like if they were a FaZe fan and they want to be a fan of the Atlanta team, like go for it. If you're, if you were an Optic fan and you want to, be a fan of the Chicago team with Hector or the LA Optic, go for it. Not Ashley, you're not allowed, but for others. But the way we see it, there's room in people's hearts, hopefully, for more than one team, right? And if you're a Call of Duty fan in this market, by all means keep following the old team that you had an affiliation with, but be a fan of we want to earn your trust and have you be a fan of ours too. And we're cool being your second favorite team for a while. And hopefully over time we can convince you to be, that we should be the favorite team.
That's awesome.
And you mentioned expanding, beyond that, and that's an important part to it. And, for us, that's part of why we felt like Call of Duty was such a great opportunity to be the first move into esports for our ownership group. Because the historical success of Call of Duty as a game, there's such an enormous number of people that, and I don't even want to call them casual fans, because they're people that are incredibly passionate about the game itself. For whatever reason, they haven't engaged with the esports side of it. That's something we talk a lot about, is how do we connect with those people and bring them into the fold and create, really cool events that they want to attend and content that's going to appeal to them. So, we obviously want to do right by the traditional CWL fans, keep them feeling good about supporting this team, reach out to players of the game that, again, may not have engaged in CWL in the past, and then create something that can bring others in the fold as well and show, people that, esports may or may not be a little bit on their radar, or they may be an esports fan but not a Call of Duty fan. Again, by putting on cool events, by creating great content, and just being available to the fans. That's what we want to try to do.
So it's kind of crazy. I mean, I think they announced today, Activision, that 600 million in like 3 days. I think the fastest selling Call of Duty this generation. So what do you guys think about the new Modern Warfare? What have you been playing?
I think that speaks a lot to just the name of the game. I think they brilliantly brought back, Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare was already a game that's regarded as, one of the most classic Call of Duties, the fan favorite. So the fact that they kind of flipped it a little bit to be in that same universe with those same characters, but it's more modern, and it just made a lot of sense. And to speak on people like coming back to it a little bit, like obviously Call of Duty is one of the top selling games, if not the
almost
top
every
selling
year,
game every single year, right? So it's almost like they're trying to outdo themselves every year, right? So how do you do that? You tap into the nostalgia. You get those people re-interested in the franchise with that classic name. I think now when you think of Call of Duty, you don't really think of like the Ghost or the Infinite Warfare. You think, oh, Black Ops, and then those games. And then you think of Modern Warfare, and then those games. Now there's literally 4. So I really like what they did with the theme of it. For the game itself, it's definitely the biggest departure from traditional Call of Duty that we've ever seen.
Yeah, even it feels like a lot more different than like the jetpack games as well. Like even when it switched from like boost to jetpack games, like that switch does not feel the same as like the one like to Modern Warfare.
Yeah, exactly. And I think they did familiarize some things. So they brought back, the guns we like, the the character skins we like, the not necessarily the maps, because I don't think there's any remakes in the game yet, but they brought back, a lot of the streaks that we used to use in those games in Modern Warfare 2 and such. So they've added nostalgia into like a flip like of their traditional style, which is 6v6. Now it seems like they have 10v10, they have 20v20. It seems like they're maybe trying to appeal to that Battlefield type of, like those gamers that really like that kind of, more
larger scale.
Yeah, larger scale. You feel like you're actually in it. So it's somewhere between like, that huge, large scale game where it's more realistic, and then that arcadey vibe that Call of Duty usually has. It's somewhere in between there. And I put in some good time as much as I could between, all the stuff we've been doing here. We've been so busy, but over the release weekend, I did put in a lot of time just pubbing it up. And there's some guns I like, there's some maps I like, there's some stuff I would like to see them add and change, but overall, like, the core of the game is good, the gunplay of the game is good, and for me, that's one of the most important parts.
Yeah, 100%. Right now, the footsteps are crazy loud.
They gotta tune
they're
that.
a little exceptional.
Gotta
I
tune
feel
that
like
a
they
little
definitely
bit.
need to do some audio tweaks in terms of that, and like the whole like dead silence thing, like not being, maybe switch it to a perk, but like not make it 100% silent when like the footsteps are as loud as they are, because it's like such a drastic change, like going back and forth.
Yeah, I saw that it listed that the kind of competition committee was involved players and coaches giving feedback to Activision and Infinity Ward to try to do that. Is that how does that process go? Is there a process to it to reach out and say, hey, as part of the competitive group for my team for what we're trying to look for? How do we move forward to get changes like that at least brought to their attention?
Not really.
Or just get on Twitter and complain a lot?
Yeah, getting on Twitter and complaining a lot is usually the way to go about things. I mean, they'll generally have like some players come out and play test like competitive settings a little bit before the game releases every year, but they don't really like tweak the game so much on that. It's kind of just finding out what maps and what settings work the best in a competitive environment. In terms of like getting like mechanics and stuff in the game changed, there's not really a direct connect for that right now. So it's kind of just the outrage they see on like Twitter and like social media platforms. And like if a lot of people are complaining about one thing, they'll be like, okay, maybe we should go and change this.
That's interesting. I hope that. I mean, I think it's important. I mean, I watch. I'm not that good at the game. To be clear, I'm not going pro. Don't worry, I'm not going to be one of your players. The team is safe.
I mean,
Oh,
hopefully
dang.
soon.
That's why we came here.
We got some extra sub spots.
But it's one of the things I really enjoy watching. It's a great sport to watch. I think it's really the competition is crazy. But I would love to see. I do think those guys, they're just playing a different game. Right. I mean, I think that's one of the things when you watch it, you're like, oh, I'm pretty good. And then you watch the pros play and you're like, they are in fuego, on fire. It's insane. And the kind of moves they make. And the other thing I think that's interesting, and I'd love to hear your comment on this from everyone here, is, a lot of esports have it where Counter-Strike's been the same game. I mean, there's rules change that kind of happen, but the Call of Duty pros really amaze me in the fact that they get essentially a new court.
Yeah.
Every
year they get a new ball, which I know sounds a little crazy, but getting a new gun and the way that the gun behaves is a big deal, right? I mean, it's not like we went from a round basketball to a rectangle basketball.
Yeah.
Here, still play basketball. I mean, I think that's a really interesting challenge for that. What do you think about that? What do you think about that? Does the team talk about that? How do they make those adjustments? How do you pick a team knowing that you don't even know if they're good at I know it sounds kind of silly, but that they're good at this new game?
It's true.
There's definitely players who excel a lot in one game, and then you'll just see a big drop off with them going into the next game. I mean, you kind of want to look at players just based on their past and their history. You'll when players are good, pretty consistently, year after year, you kind of know that they're going to be reliable. And going into a new game, you kind of just want to get a team that's really balanced role-wise, so you don't really have too many issues depending on how the game plays. You kind of have a bit of flexibility to adapt to whatever meta it may be.
So do you pick hey, we need an assault, we need a sub, we need a sniper? Are those the kind of typical positions you try to fill?
What are the three roles? It's usually AR, sub, flex player.
Yeah.
So flex player, kind of describe that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, basically you'll have a main assault rifle player, a main SMG player, and then kind of, outside of that, you'll have players who are a bit more flexible, who can kind of just go back and forth on either role, who kind of play a medium pace of tempo.
Yeah, so do the teams, do they adopt the terminology in game just through the community and the way the community references things, or do you guys come together with your own kind of playbook of what the various places on the map are and how you're going to do them?
There's definitely some pro lingo in that regard. I mean, when it comes to call outs and map locations and stuff like that, I think most pros generally have similar call outs, because they'll play together in custom games 5 random pros versus 5 random pros, and people kind of pick up on the call outs and the communications, so a lot of those overlap. But some teams definitely may call one thing something slightly different than another team calls it.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's super interesting, especially when you get a chance to kind of get those listen ins whenever they have the play going. And I mean, there's a lot of chatter to follow and kind of do in that space. Well, I can't thank you guys enough for coming down. I'm so excited about the Røkkr. I think this is going to be great. You guys, I think this is going to be a really interesting season with the launch here in town. So thank you guys for coming by. I really appreciate it.
I mean, thank you so much for having us out here.
Yeah, you got it.
Thank you.
You've been great hosts. Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody. That's the Game Informer Show. See you next week.